Welcome back, everybody, to the Big Apple Hockey Podcast. The Holy Trinity is back. I am delighted to say that. I am also always delighted to say I am your host, Marc Williams. Got that one pretty quickly. And I am joined by the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John Filkowski.
May I have a little offense, please? Please, can I have some offense? I'm starving over here.
You want more? And the man who hasn't seen a goal against since Friday night, Mr. Anthony Larocco.
Are we living in a alternate universe where the Buffalo Sabres are a good hockey team?
You know something? It's amazing how addition by subtraction can really work sometimes. But also, it's amazing when you get a coach like Don Granato on there where the players have bought in and believe in him. So that also very much helps as well. Well, we got a lot of news to cover today. We also got a lot of news to break to you. Coming soon will be BigAppleHockeyPodcast.com, which will feature written articles by the three of us, as well as other news and information, opinion pieces, and it'll be a hub for our videos as well. Not just YouTube, although it also shoot you to YouTube anyway. We'll also be having, we're in development right now of a Filk wrestling channel. If you want to hear that guy talk about wrestling, just make sure you comment down. I want my Filk wrestling. So let's get down to the lead story with the New York Rangers, which they have won 4 straight and then got torched at home by the Calgary Flames. But they shouldn't feel too badly because the New Jersey Devils got torched at home by the Calgary Flames as well. Who'd have thought we'd be talking about Calgary right now with 2 straight wins in this area? But wins over to Montreal, Toronto, Nashville, and Ottawa. And I don't know exactly which one of those I want to write home about right now. But Chris Kreider, of course, still leading the team. Igor Shesterkin was incredible. Actually, you know something? I got Anthony on. I forgot to do this, guys. So I gotta cut back because we prepared a cold open for you. Enjoy.
Holy God.
Lock and load.
Stop by Shesterkin.
Rushing ahead, what a save! Ilya Sorokin.
Night 7-5.
Checker unloads, glove save Sorokin.
Are they not getting through?
No, sir, not one.
They must have some kind of protective shield over that hall. Knights, pull up, pull up!
Got you covered, Big Daddy.
Hughes has it, slot, picks up, rebound, Shesterkin.
Damn, they got shields too.
And that's going to do it. So the Islanders, yep, surgical for sure.
Who posts back-to-back shutouts.
So you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
You know, I spent all afternoon making that, and then I never put it on at the right time. But
That was awesome.
So this is gonna be a theme for the basically both teams right now. I mean,
Going
are they just
forward,
being carried by their goaltenders, guys?
I mean,
I don't think one team is going to be carried by its goaltender. I think one of them will be for sure. That's the boys in blue and red. The boys in blue and orange have a real good coach and a real good system to fall back on.
The other one's still learning it, but yeah.
The other one, I mean, listen, it's an adjustment period to go on. I will say that, but there are some fundamentals that need to be fixed. But to get back to the goaltending itself, I mean, both of them have been great. Igor Shesterkin, since we're on the Rangers right now, we'll talk about Igor, but he's been phenomenal. He wasn't helped out in Calgary on Monday, but he was phenomenal in the 3 or 4 games before that. So somebody should be getting this man a stake in every city that they go to because he's deserved it. He's carried the team. And they need more. The offense needs to step up and start giving him some support and giving them something to work with. And they have to get the puck out of their zone effectively. The faceoffs, I mean, 31st in the NHL, it's unacceptable. unacceptable. You can't do that. If I don't know where he is right now or what he's doing with himself, or if he's completely disconnected from the game of hockey itself, but somebody friggin' call Yannick Perreault up and have them work with the Rangers on taking faceoffs, because that guy was a beast at faceoffs. He was 60+% almost every year for like a 6-7 year span or something like that. Get that man in and have him work with the Rangers. It just, again, like Dave said, too many turnovers. That doesn't help. But get Igor some help, because all he can do is just be a wall. Yeah, no soup for us. No offense for us Ranger fans, because there's only been one game in which they've scored 3 or more non-empty net goals in regulation this season. Pathetic.
I mean, again, sometimes, like I referred to him in the preseason, Artemi Panarin is the ultimate deodorant. Well, so can Igor Shesterkin be. And in hockey, you're in that unique situation where the goalie can literally just lift the team up when they're not playing at their best. And yes, Patrick Nemeth has been a huge problem, huge problem so far, but he won't be forever, although he's got a 3-year deal. Let's just be honest, he's another Brendan Smith. The bad version, not the version that was actually had some value. But I mean, you look at the game on Saturday. Georgiev was okay. Those 2 goals
Georgiev was good in that game.
Well, the goals were not good. But
no, the second goal wasn't good. The first goal, really, there was nothing he could do about that one. It was an odd man rush. But the second goal, what was that? Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, and especially when it's right in the beginning of a period. But the Rangers came back, and you know how much of a rarity that is to win a game in regulation. I got the graphic for you right here. I mean, it's only happened 8 times before this since 1999 to be down by 2 goals in the final 5 minutes or 6 minutes and win in regulation. So, but that's just not it. But the thing also to look at right now is this Jacob Trouba quote, and I'm going to throw it up right over here as well. That the team feels a little bit more comfortable, and I think that's what's going to go a long way. That eventually that they're able to make mistakes and stuff like that. It's just
Quinn micromanage them.
Sorry, what?
I said Quinn micromanage them. You can't do that, and you can't tell players don't play with the puck in your backhand, or don't stick handle it all on a 2-on-1. Like what kind of garbage, like amateur level coaching is that?
Well, again, that's where you're confident with having a Jack Adams Trophy winner. So I'm going to bring in the opinion of the guy who also has a Jack Adams Trophy winner on his bench, Anthony LaRocco.
Yeah, so the Rangers, you look at the record, and as a Ranger fan, you got to be happy at this point. But when you look at the bigger picture of it, though, they beat a Montreal team that's really bad right now, guys. They beat a Maple Leafs team that's also struggling mightily.
More on that later.
They beat a bad Nashville Predators team, and they beat a bad Ottawa Senators team. But, they say good teams, you got to win the games you're supposed to, and they did that. My issue with it was for a majority of those games, they were carried by Shesterkin. And I don't know how sustainable that is over a long course of the season. It's not, and it has to change. And the other thing is, Zibanejad's got a decent amount of points, but he's got 7 points in 6 games or something along those lines.
But he only has 6 points, a goal, and 5 assists.
So he only has 1 goal, though. I mean, for one of your better goal scorers, he's got to start scoring. He's got to put the pucks in the net. And Artemi Panarin is an elite player in this league, and right now he's not playing like it. So yeah, they got the good record right now. That's good, but there are issues behind the scenes that the casual fan might not see and just jump for joy with their 4-2-1 or whatever they are. But there's some issues they got to clean up, and first and foremost is their best players have to be their best players, and they can't leave Shesterkin out to dry all night, because as good as he is, he's not going to shut the door every single night. So, I'm confident Panarin will find his game. I'm not really worried about that. For me, it's more so their transitioning game that concerns me. And
Someone's been reading my good, bad, and uglies.
And I've also caught a bunch of their games too. And I mean, honestly, you're spot on there. And then overall, they're playing the defensive zone. I mean, we'll point out Nemeth and Tenorti, but they all got to be better.
By the way, if you haven't checked it out yet, check out our Facebook page, either our fan page or our group page that we got, and check out Filk's Good, Bad, and the Ugly. He'll do that after every single Ranger game, win or lose. And Monday was a lot of ugly. So.
Yeah, there was no good or bad on Monday. There was just all ugly, and it was ugly at that. So, but Anthony's right. The transition game is something that I've been pointing out all season, all over Twitter. I've had this discussion with many people, and the transition game is awful. I don't know how this team is so bad in transition. Transitioning their puck out of the zone. Their breakouts are horrible. The passes simply just don't connect for whatever reason. So a lot of times they'll miss the connect on the pass, and it just results in a turnover, the other team having it and going back the other way, which results in more sustained pressure in their own zone, or they turn the puck over, which is even worse, in their own defensive zone, and that leads to more chances against. And, like you said, Artemi Panarin, Igor Shesterkin, the ultimate deodorants. You can only use so much deodorant until that smell starts to reek through. And it's basically what happened against Calgary on Monday. You can't keep doing that. This play is unsustainable. All Ranger fans who have been around long enough, this is the 2015-2016 team all over again. And someone told me that, well, you can't compare the two teams because the 2015-16 team was a veteran team that a lot of guys were starting to go into the back nines of their careers. Well, no, because they're doing the same exact things that team was doing. They were turning pucks over. They weren't getting enough offensive zone time. They weren't generating enough chances. Power play is piss awful again. I mean, I don't understand how this power play is as bad as it is, but I think we need to see Mika Zibanejad move from that near side board for that one-timer in that Ovechkin office. I think he needs to move to the bumper spot. Artemi Panarin needs to go from what Ryan Strome's spot was over to Mika Zibanejad's Alexander Ovechkin spot. Alexis Lafreniere needs to be where Artemi Panarin is now, and then Chris Kreider needs to park his ass in front of that net with Adam Fox at a point. So there's a lot of things that are wrong with that power play. There are a lot of things wrong with transition. They're just too sloppy with the puck. And they refuse to seem to kind of want to dump and chase against teams that are preventing them from gaining any type of speed or momentum through the neutral zone like Calgary did on Monday. So that's got to change. And that's a mentality change. That's not even just coaching. That's the players. That's on the players to do that.
Well, first, they're not playing their best hockey, and they got points. That's the good thing I have to say out of that. You still have to be confident that Gerard Gallant is going to address these things because he's done that in his previous locations. I believe the first season that Florida really broke out. As a matter of fact, they don't.
Oh, that's got to change.
That's got to change. The first season that they broke out in Florida, they started slow and then built it up, and then they had the statement win against the Canadians. The other thing to throw in there is it's almost better when the team struggles because then there's more stuff to coach on. I think John Tortorella said that once, and there's a lot more to go with that. So I think they're gonna be okay. I think they need to address certain personnel situations because the question still is FIlip long for this team? I've seen flashes, and it's just I don't know. I think they may need to move him out, but we're going to find out about that. Anthony, last word on this? Oh, wait,
can we answer this? Because I know it's not Q&A time, but this is actually a really, really good question from Chris Tate. I don't get it. I know I've said this in here, and I'll give Statboy Steven the credit because he was the one that brought it up, even though I've kind of done it so in the past on my own. The last forward that they've developed that has scored 60 or more points with this team is Tony Amonte. Like, that's a long, long time. That's almost 30 years ago. So, why
I mean, you could argue Adam Graves developed with the Rangers, but still.
No, he wasn't drafted by them, though.
Yeah, he was still with Edmonton first.
Yeah.
But there's
he was
not a lot.
Detroit before Edmonton.
You can see the look in my eyes. It's been a while. I mean, Ryan Callahan, maybe.
No, Ryan Callahan never hit 60 points.
But still never hit 60 points, but still. That was a quality forward that they developed.
I mean, Chris Kreider hasn't turned into the 30-goal, 60-point scorer that, everybody hoped he could be. There's been nobody that's done that. And this team has had such a problem developing forwards. I just don't get why either. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
I can question all the players, period, that they haven't developed. Forwards, goaltenders, everyone. Who are the two best players that they've had over the last 30 years? Brian Leetch and Henrik Lundqvist. And really, they really barely developed Leetch. He was at Boston College, and then he came over, and he was just great. And then Lundqvist had most of his development in the Swedish Elite League. So, all right, Anthony, your thoughts on the Rangers? What's gone right and what's gone wrong?
Well, Christy posed that question. I was glad because speaking of developing forwards, I need to see more from Lafreniere. I need to see more from him. I'm with you. Listen, his second year
By
player.
the way, Anthony, that's a quote that he had. Alexis Lafreniere points the thumb. I have to do the same things every game, be more consistent. It's really on me to do that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a second year player, so I'm not ready to throw him away by any stretch. But for a first overall pick, you typically want to see more flashes of brilliance out of him, or that real offensive flair, and you haven't really seen it. I think some people, I don't know if some people are expecting him to be like a generational player, which was never the case. I don't know why some people would have even said that. I saw someone on one of Filk's threads, I don't know if it was the Facebook account or Twitter, talking about that, and it was never said about
Facebook.
So if you have that kind of expectations going in, you're going to be more disappointed than you even are right now. But he's got to be better. I mean, you invest when you get a first overall pick, you really need to hit a home run there. And don't get me wrong, he still can be, but he needs to start showing more. And
a second overall pick. Don't forget about Kakko.
Yeah,
well,
he's still out on Kakko.
Yeah.
And
we talked about that in the summer. Granted, he's been hurt. The 3 games he's played, he hasn't got a point, but he's been hurt. So we'll see what happens when he comes back. But yeah, I mean, the both of them really have to step forward, because I mean, you imagine if they don't, a first and second round pick that you missed on. I mean, that's really hard to recover from. But when like I said, we're not at that point yet, but they really do need to start producing more offensively.
The other thing I always bring up in situations like this is if you trade away player X, let's say, for instance, they trade away Vitaly Kravtsov and he doesn't blossom. Then you have to start questioning the talent evaluators who looked over and said, that's the guy that I want, instead of a player Y, like Oliver Wahlstrom, that we're going to see plenty of. It's just, or Noah Dobson, or, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, Marty Necas is another one that you look over and go, that guy could have been a Ranger. But somebody saw something, Gordy Clark, and said, that's the guy we should make the decision on. So that's why Nils Lundqvist better come through. And I'm not saying the player this is the pressure on the player, more than it's a pressure on the scout and the front office guys that made that decision. Certainly not the player. But we're going to keep talking Rangers for another few more minutes. We got a guest coming on in a moment. It's Darius Kasparaitis. Hopefully my friend Russ is watching, and that was his favorite player growing up. But, which, again, one of the funnier stories to tell about him was he called me up the day that free agency happened. And he was like, Kasper signed with the Rangers. Kasper signed with the Rangers. And he was a little bit in tears. And I was I was kind of smiling about that. Like, your pain.
Nah. Yeah, I mean, this is another good one from Chris. We don't know if it's the talent evaluators or if it's in-house development, but he's right. We don't know if it's just because that's been the issue with Vitaly Kravtsov. The discussion comes down to did they miss the character defects with him, or did they take the risk knowingly take the risk on it, and they just couldn't develop him right and handle his personality? Either way, it's a bad look on the organization both ways. So, this is just a really good point that I wanted to bring up.
I think that's a great point. And what I'm also going to go with for that is if they're going somewhere else and developing, then it's just the development. If they're going somewhere else and they're still not developing, it could be just the talent evaluators.
Yeah.
It could also be both.
Yeah,
Let's be honest about that.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because they canned Nick Bobrov, who made what we all thought were some really good picks with their European guys. And Nick Bobrov, if you guys are familiar with him at all, I actually met him at the 2019 prospect meet and greet up in the city, and I was talking to him for a little bit about some of the guys. Good guy, really, really nice guy. But Nick Bobrov was the one who found guys like David Krejci and a lot of those guys for Boston in the early to mid 2000s. Yes, Marc Savard was traded stupidly away. And there were signs for Marc Savard, and they gave up on him for whatever reason. I don't know why they did. That was just dumb. He would have helped them out so much.
I'm sorry about the dead air for a second.
No.
It's one of those things, and we're still killing time waiting for Darius Kasparaitis to get on in here.
I mean,
Anthony's watching like a hawk, fortunately, as we're babbling on like idiots. But it's one of those things where they could have had, and Nick Suzuki too, by the way. Both of them could still be the problem. One of them could be the problem, but you also don't know. I mean, David Quinn, we're all blaming David Quinn. Soon, and again, take Lafreniere and Kakko and shove them out because those were the no-brainers. They were Central Scouting's number 1 and number 2, so it wasn't going to be that. The Rangers weren't going to pass on Kakko for Kirby Dach. It wasn't going to happen. Or even Quentin Byfield for Alexis Lafreniere. But it's just these guys. Once you get the talent, what are you going to do with it? You can't just put them on the fourth line and have them play with Brett Howden and go, don't worry, you'll develop into an NHLer. But, and power play 1 is one of those guys has got to make it the power play 1. Now, also, by the way, please, to the players, jump up and take that spot. Alexei, you've got to do that. You've got to go up and be just play so well that they can't help but give you more ice time. That's the only thing that you can ask for him to be.
Oh, I mean, yeah, because if he doesn't, then that really hurts the Rangers offensively and their forward group. You know, that's what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. You know, we're talking about the downside to this. You're relying on so many young guys. You know, if they don't play to their expectations, you know that hurts your team big time, and it magnifies even more when your best player, Artemi Panarin, is currently, you know, in a slump or whatever he's got going on. So it's imperative for you know them to really start to come through here.
And it's also imperative that Mika Zibanejad gets going. And as we saw what happened last year, the Rangers kind of went as Mika went.
Yeah. Unlike the thing right now, the guy's got, you know, 1 goal. I mean, I know he's got the points, he's getting some assists, but you know, he's their best goal scorer. I mean, he needs to score goals.
I you know me. I'm the cynic. I can be the negative one, but I will play devil's advocate here. Mika Zibanejad has not gotten help from Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider being having 4 goals this season in 7 games, and the way that he's gotten them is the most Rangers thing ever. # that's so Rangers, because Chris Kreider would do that, and because he's played like an absolute ghost this year. He's been a ghost. Like if it wasn't for the 4 goals that he's gotten on all deflections, by the way, he hasn't gotten a goal on a single shot. You wouldn't know that Chris Kreider has even done anything this season because his play away from the puck has left all of the world to be desired. So Chris Kreider not helping him. Alexis Lafreniere not playing well and helping Mika Zibanejad hasn't helped either. They haven't been able to put someone like Vitaly Kravtsov, who would have been, I would have said in terms of style of play, would probably be the closest thing to Pavel Buchnevich that they would have had in the organization. So that could have been a decent fit there to help out, to someone that could drive the play a little more. Because they really don't have a play driver on that line right now, aside from Mika. They need a second play driver on that line because Mika Zibanejad he's not a facilitator. He's a goal scorer. And that's why Pavel Buchnevich worked so well with that line. So, yeah. And then not only that, but Artemi Panarin, okay. I know he played with Mika Zibanejad for the first 6 games of the 1920 season. And then they split that line up after the loss to Vancouver in the 6th game. Then they went with that Buffalo game and with Strome and Panarin. Strome was out, obviously, COVID. Kakko's been out. So Panarin really hasn't had anybody to work with because FIlip does not look like he's a top 6 forward going forward. And I know it's kind of early to say that, but I haven't gotten any flashes or indications that he's that guy. He looks like he probably belongs on the wing if he's going to be in a top 6 role. So Artemi Panarin, you got to give him a little bit of a pass. But at the same time, when does this start to become a major concern?
I think the concern is that he's a -4 right now.
Yeah.
He's been a plus player for a while and a very good defensive guy. I was hoping Kreider was going to keep on scoring so that way I could say to you, Kreider's on a pace for 82 goals as he was up until last week. But not so much now. And, it's a problem when you don't play with the puck. Sometimes the puck doesn't find you. You got to go get it.
Okay,
if you're not going to have it, you got to go get it.
I'm not a fan of Kreider. Okay, but what has he done away from the puck? Can either of you tell me what he's done away from the puck? Bobby, can you tell me what he's done away from the puck?
He's had some issues. Actually, can I ask you this, Filk? Saturday, the hit on, I think it was Josh Norris at the very end.
Yeah.
Would you have suspended him?
That's a close call. I mean, it's a dangerous play. It's a dumb play. It's a dumb penalty to take. He's lucky that there was only 10 seconds left in the game. But if they would have tied that game, Chris Kreider would have been crucified by this entire fan base. And that's the thing. And Anthony, look, not much. What has Chris Kreider done? Where is the forechecking, though, Bobby? I don't see it. Anthony, do you see forechecking from Chris Kreider? Marc?
No.
Like, I mean, listen,
you could tell forechecking should be his forte. It's been a little bit lacking this year.
Yeah, and he needs to be better off the puck. When Chris Kreider is not scoring goals this year, he's not doing anything. He needs to do more. He needs to be more engaged.
Well, yeah, we're gonna wrap this up anyway, because we'll move on. We'll start talking about the Islanders. Hopefully, we get Darius before that segment. But guys, what do you think about how the Rangers have gone? 4 straight wins, all on the road, mostly on the back of Igor Shesterkin with that force field that he has around the net. Independence Day. Please don't get a virus, just like in the movie, and stay away from the cars with Booch. That would also help. Are the Rangers off to a good start in your opinion? Throw them all down in the comments below, and I think they're still gonna get better, guys. I don't have to worry about that. We're gonna move on and talk about the New York Islanders. And the Islanders got their first win this last week in Chicago after losing the first 2 games against Florida and Carolina. But the story this week, Anthony, I think it's obvious. Ilya Sorokin, 3-0, 2 shutouts, 1 goal against, a career-high 42 saves for Vegas. Take it away.
And mind you, that game against Chicago, They allowed a goal 21 seconds left. I mean, this guy was 21 seconds away from having 3 shutouts in 6 games. He's been really good. He was really good in Chicago. In Arizona, he was good. And then in Vegas, he was phenomenal. The Islanders allowing 42 shots. That's unlike them. But Sorokin shut the door in Vegas. He made like at least 2 like really good highlight reel saves. Oddly enough, they both came on Keegan Kolesar. And then literally at the very end of the game with like 1 second left, I thought it was going to be a Chicago redo. The puck came out in front of the net all alone. I don't know if the players got loose, and he robbed Shea Theodore as time expired. But he's been really, really good for them. They started waking up in that game against Chicago, getting back to Islander hockey. Arizona, obviously, they're a really bad team, so it is what it is. You expect.
Yeah, but Arizona was all over them in the first period.
Yeah, they were. They were.
Yeah.
But the Islanders were supposed to beat them, and they did. But you're right. Sorokin again held it down in the first period in that game, and in the Vegas game, I thought for stretches the Islanders were the better team, but in the second period, Vegas was guns blazing, and he shut the door. He's now they have a decision to make. Varlamov got activated today off the injured reserve, so he's on his way back. And you look at it and you think to yourself, if Varlamov plays on Saturday against Nashville, and then Sorokin starts, because after that, they've had a long break. After this game against Nashville, they have another 4 days off before they play Montreal. So if Varlamov starts that game, and then Sorokin plays that game on November 4th, you're talking 11 days between starts. So I don't think that would be wise for Barry Trotz to go with Varlamov in this game here on Saturday, especially after coming off 2 shutouts and as well as he's playing. You got to go with Sorokin. You can't let him go that long without playing. And for Varlamov, he hasn't played at all yet this season. So for him to wait another 4 days after Saturday to make his debut doesn't really hurt anybody. So I think it's an easy decision there. As for the rest of the team, like I said, they started to get back to their game, play more solid Islander hockey. Barzal has been good on his line with him, Lee, and Palmieri, and the Pajot, Wallstrom, and Parise line has been good. I mean, they're doing their job, forechecking, causing up fits for other teams. And yes, good cue there. He did split up the B line. He called them out after the loss against Florida. He wasn't happy with that line, and he swapped Beuvillier and Bailey. So Bailey moved to the top line to play with Lee and Barzal, and it worked because Bailey had two points in that game against Vegas, and it seems like he woke up a little bit. And then Beuvillier looks a little refreshed too. So, Palmieri playing on a different line, but Brock Nelson's starting to wake up, so that's good for them. And obviously, as we all know, Pelech and Pullock are, they're true selves. They give you, their honest effort every game and shut down other teams. So on the up, they're looking good. And listen, when you look back on it, the two teams they lost to are 2 of the 4 teams that are still undefeated. I mean, the Panthers and the Hurricanes. So they lost to 2 good teams. So, but we'll see. They got Nashville now and then Montreal, 2 teams that they should beat. So hopefully, from here on out, they're going to continue to get better. And listen, 13-game road trip. There's 6 games into it. As an Islander fan, you got to be happy with the 3-2-1 record to start the season on the road.
And also, what are they? They're good at home. When they get done with this road trip, they got 28 more games on the road and 41 at home.
Yeah,
that's
nice.
a big advantage for them.
Absolutely.
That's a big advantage.
Yeah,
I love what I've seen from Ilya Sorokin. I mean, I will say that for about 40 to 45 minutes, give or take, he was kind of untested against Arizona. You got to, and again, like Anthony said, you got to beat the bad teams. Arizona's bad. You got to beat them, and they beat them convincingly. So Ilya Sorokin, I don't think he was nearly as tested as much in that game, but when he was there. He was true to form, tall to the task. And then against Vegas, I thought Ilya Sorokin played the best game of his entire career so far. He was incredible. He was the reason why they won that game. And there's nothing else.
Yeah.
to say about that. It just the Islanders were outplayed for the majority of that game. I know you might have been a little generous there, but Vegas really, really probably deserved to win that game in terms of the way that they were carrying the play. But Ilya Sorokin said no. Ilya Sorokin refused to lose that game, and that's why they won. So good on Ilya for being as good as he was in that game. He's got 2 back-to-back shutouts. He deserves it. He was probably one of the players of the week, and he deserved to be. I thought the Islanders, I thought they were okay. I still don't see them playing at the level where they were last year down the stretch and into the playoffs and so on. They'll get better. I have confidence in that. Like I said, I still think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to get better. But they need to play more Barry Trotz Islanders hockey. And they haven't done so to the best of their ability so far. But I have confidence that they're going to get better, and they will. They'll pick everything out. Like I said, the only thing that I'm really worried about right now, if I'm an Islander fan, is the defense outside of the top pairing. The top pairing is great. Top pairing is one of the best pairings in the NHL. But where is the defense after Scott Mayfield? Because Zdeno Chara looks cooked. Andy Green looks like a corpse that you're probably going to see as a prop in someone's Halloween decorations for their house. Who else do they have at this point? Sebastian Aho?
Well,
I mean,
Zdeno Chara is going to dress up as a
Darius
cone for
coming on here.
Halloween.
Hold on.
A really
Let's
big
cut this
freaking
off.
cone, but a cone.
Let's cut this off.
Oh, hey. We got joining
What's
us
up,
right
guys?
now, Darius Kasparaitis.
Thank you for joining us, Darius.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into the thick of things here, obviously since your playing days ended a while ago, have you been involved in the game? Do you still play? You coach, or what's your involvement in hockey in general at this point?
I play maybe twice a week for fun, and I help out University of Miami coaching team a little bit, but it's not really high level job. So it's I don't even know what division they're playing actually.
That's great. So we'll start with the Islanders. You played for both New York teams. When you look back at your days with the Islanders, what's I guess your best memory? Was it the run in '93, or is it something else? What do you really remember about playing here on the island?
Well, I think, of course, playoffs against Pittsburgh Penguins. But I think the best memory I had is Islander hitting a light post behind next to the Coliseum with my BMW.
Oh my God, that's great.
right before the game, actually.
Right.
Oh, that's the worst time for that to happen too, because now you got to go in. You're all frazzled before your game, and you're thinking, "Oh, geez, now I got to get this thing fixed." Oh,
That's the game. Actually, that's the game I abused Mario Lemieux. I was very irritated with my driving, so I took all my frustration.
so who do you think was more irritated, you about your driving or Mario Lemieux about having to play against you in that game? Because you really, really got under his skin.
Well, you know what? I don't think I really figured out that part when I was young. I was just playing very hard, and I didn't really care about any star players on the opposite team. And I think Mario got probably irritated because I don't think he knew who I was, and maybe it was sometimes we expect to beat the team, and the thing's not going your way. You get frustrated.
Yeah.
Darius, you were one of the great agitators of the 90s. Who was one of your favorite targets that you just like to just get under their skin and just annoy them?
Well, obviously, when I played for the Islanders, it was Marc Messier, and when I got traded to Pittsburgh, it was Eric Lindros. So I picked my players all the time. But the battles I had with Rangers and then with Pittsburgh against Flyers, I think that's one of the games you play hard all the time.
Now, did you notice any difference? Because obviously the Rangers and Islanders have a big rivalry. as a player, did you notice any difference from when you were on the Islander side of it and the Rangers side of it?
Well, actually, it's a big difference. I think when you play for the Islanders, the Ranger games, it's so huge. I think that like even when I came to the league, I realized how guys, even before the game, guys get ready and the fans and everything. But I think when you play for the Rangers, I think a lot of teams don't like Rangers. You play Devils, you play Flyers, you play Pittsburgh, So when I played for the Rangers, I don't think it was that big of a deal playing against Islanders when I played there, maybe because we're too, not good enough at that time. But I think when you play for the smaller market teams and you play big market teams, I think you get pumped up. Even when I played in Pittsburgh, we hated the Rangers, and anytime they came in town, everybody wanted to beat them, So I think when you play for the Rangers and you play against other teams, it's always a big game as a Ranger.
Yeah.
Darius, I know that for a bit, like after the 05-06 lockout, you were one of the leaders in the locker room, and you also got to take charge of the music in the locker room for a little bit there. And I've got to ask this question because I don't think I've ever heard you explain this. But how exactly did you come across that The Shingus Khan song for Peter Pruka?
Pruka? I think it's like a 80s Euro trash music, and when I was with the Rangers, we didn't have iPads and iPhones. I have to make every CD before the game. I have to burn it and put it, in a CD player. So I think Jason Strudwick had the first iPod on the team, and that's why I think everything changed after. But before that, I used to make CDs before. Even when I played in Pittsburgh, I was a DJ. So I did something good in the NHL.
Darius, you were always one of the more physical players in the NHL. You probably had one of the smoothest hip checks that I've ever had the pleasure of watching for years.
Absolutely.
You ever wonder where the physicality is just getting out of the league, and is there a way of getting it back in?
I think it comes from youth hockey. I was recently in Russia. In Russia, they changed rules completely. You can't basically hit until you're, 19. And before even you have to hit somebody, you have to play the puck first. So it's totally confusing all the players. I received some videos from kids in all over the world, and they show me nice, clean hits, but they get game misconducts because they don't trying to play the puck, they try to play the body, which is totally opposite what I did. Usually as a defenseman, you always want to play the body first and then take the puck. And I think that's what it is. Youth leagues are different now, less hitting. And I think when you play that way and then they expect you to start hitting at age 20, it's very hard to change it.
Darius, one of my favorite moments as an Islander fan was that 93 series, but it's often remembered against the Capitals. There was the Pierre Turgeon hit on, Dale Hunter hit on Pierre Turgeon. In my opinion, it's still one of the dirtiest plays I've seen. But as a member, as his teammate and being in that game, what was everyone's reaction? Because it was so blatantly obvious. How much did that really just infuriate you guys? I remember Rich Pilon just flying in there and all mayhem, kind of busted out. But what were your thoughts on that when it happened?
Well, I was shocked as everyone on the team, and I don't think Hunter was Dale Hunter.
Yeah.
I don't think he meant to injure him. I think he was just frustrated that they're losing the game, and I don't think sometimes frustration just takes over you and you lose control. I think he didn't really mean to hurt him, what I'm saying? But it happens, and of course, everybody tried to get him back, and he got suspended for 10 games. Right now, it would be probably 2 years suspension. It's just it happens. The hockey game is very even right now. I play for lunch hockey, and I still get frustrated, and you do stupid things when you lose,
Darius, did you ever have maybe a certain favorite defense partner or somebody that you felt that you always played very well with?
Well, I think, with one of my favorite partners I played with, I think was Ian Moran in Pittsburgh. He was a right shot defenseman, and he talked a lot during the game. He was very vocal, and he helped me a lot. And I think we played good together. So I always remember I had one of the best years in Pittsburgh playing with him as a partner.
And there's moving to current day hockey news around the league. And you're located in Florida. What's the feel around the Panthers right now? They're undefeated. They look like they're going to be a contender, in my opinion. Is there like real excitement around them right now?
I think so. People get more excited close to playoffs in Florida, but I feel like Panthers have a great start of the season, and I think they took a while to build this team. And I think everything is in place right now. As long as they stay healthy, they have a pretty good chance competing for the Stanley Cup this year. But it's Florida. Hockey in Florida sometimes it's very hard to imagine, and a lot of people don't follow as much as they follow Miami Heat, for example. So you can still buy tickets probably on StubHub for $11. So that says a lot.
Oh,
Darius, I do have to tell you, my one of my best friends growing up, Russ, you were his favorite player, and when you signed with the Rangers, he called me up crying, and being a huge Ranger fan, I was in disbelief. I was like, wait, what happened?
With me, with the Rangers?
Yeah. Oh no. I didn't know what happened, but yeah, I found out you signed with the Rangers. Turned on ESPN.
No, but
and that was it.
They gave me the most money. I was telling my agent. When the Rangers gave me in my contract, I told my agent it was too much money. I don't think I deserved that much money. But that was the time. You play hard for 10 years and then you make money. Now it's different. You play hard for 1 year, then you make a lot of money. Then you basically.
Yeah.
I think
Anthony?
He's muted.
Yeah, I think Darius is muted.
No, I'm good. Yeah. You hear me?
Oh, yeah,
you're good.
Yeah, now I
just
can hear you.
The current day Rangers and Islanders. What do you think both teams can make the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I think Rangers have a good coaching staff, and Islanders have a good coaching staff. I think they both teams are very young, and I think they both have a good chance of making playoffs.
Now, Des, before we let you go, I have a funny story. One of your teammates in '93 was Benoit Hogue. About 12 years ago, my men's league team here on Long Island, we were playing. We hit the ice, and then all my teammates were like, "Oh, that's Benoit Hogue on the ice," and the guy was still insane even at that point. So what do you remember about him and what made him such a good player? Because even at that point, in his 40s, he was still really good against us.
He killed us.
I still stay in touch with Benny. I think Benny made me feel very comfortable in the locker room because he was I think he was the first ugliest guy in the locker room, and and that's why I have a big nose right now because I had so many probably injuries with my nose. But Benny had a big nose right from the beginning. And his nickname was Benny Nose. So, but it was actually Benny was a great guy. When I came as a rookie, was very he had a good sense of humor, and he made me feel comfortable. And I still talk to him every time I see him. We still crack the jokes about something. And Benny was a great player.
Yeah, he played defense in this game, and you could tell he wasn't trying. But there were a couple times he took a head of steam up the ice and just let a wrist shot go, and it beat my buddy in net. And we were like,
"Yeah,
about that."
He let the shot go from maybe the blue line, and our goalie didn't even react to it. It was just
when Benny plays, he has the visor and he flips it upside down.
Yeah. No, Benny. Benny had a great shot. So you guys probably lucky to have him to play with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is he still playing? Do you know?
Who, him?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course he plays. I think he still skates in Long Island. I think he coaches the kids, and I think he still skates.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, Darius, thanks for your time. You were really great. You got
it was fantastic having you.
Thank you
for joining us.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Darius.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's probably gonna go down as one of our funniest interviews.
Oh my God. Yeah, between him and Marty, I don't know who was funnier.
Marty's fantastic with that.
Oh.
By the way, everybody, if you didn't like it, already like this broadcast or this video, the shortened version as well is going to be coming out soon. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe.
Please.
And we got a lot more coming to you. We still got to finish with the Islanders.
Yeah, so we'll wrap that up. But that was incredible. I mean, the hitting the light post and the first, that was just.
I did not expect he was going to say that.
Yeah,
and then that's amazing. But we got to get back to the Islanders right now to finish up that, because there was one stat I needed to quote for you guys that still surprised me, Anthony. There's only one team that averages more shots against in the league right now, and that's the Edmonton Oilers. Does that surprise you at all, especially with the New York Islanders?
Yeah, they're not a team that really gives you much, but
no.
Then again, they do, for the most part, aside from that Vegas game, they do limit you to the outside. They don't really give up grade A chances. So a lot of the shots they give up are, teams just putting pucks on the net from pretty much anywhere. But even still, you would like to see them tighten that up. Like I said, the next two games against Nashville and Montreal, they should beat both of those teams. Get them feeling even better about themselves coming out of the first leg of this road trip. But like I said earlier, 3-2-1 after the first 6 games, you got to be happy with that. Sorokin's on fire, and their offensive guys like Barzal's starting to show life. Wallstrom's been consistent the whole season so far. So, as long as they just keep playing the way they're playing, though, they'll eventually get back to Islander hockey, and you're already seeing signs of it. And then, as you mentioned, they're getting these 13 games out of the way on the road, and then for a while they're going to be at home, and they're a really good home team. So if this 13-game road trip is over, if they're a couple of games over 500, or even at 500, they're in a good spot. But if they can even come out a couple of games over, I mean, that's going to set them up perfectly for the rest of the season. So
not only that, but I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but
go ahead.
You got to bring this up too. They're going into a new arena. How pumped are they and the fans going to be for playing in that new arena?
That's just an arena made for them.
Boost. Yeah, it's a gigantic boost for them. So if the Islanders come out of this, I like you said, if they're maybe anywhere from like 3 to 5 games above 500 by the time that happens, forget about it. I mean, that I'm not going to say smooth sailing to win the division, because you never know what someone like Washington can do.
To make the playoffs, they could put it in cruise control.
They could, once you get into a point where that you're really going to have a playoff spot, then you could start, doing that types of things. And if you really don't care about the division that much at that point, then you could start resting your players and stuff for the playoffs. So, I mean, it's a huge advantage for them.
Yeah. And mind you, they're a team that statistically gets better in the middle of the season. They start off slow and they end slow, but in the meat of the season, the middle of the season, that's where they're at their best. So I think as an Islander fan, you got to be happy with where they are right now. And, who knows, maybe they stumbled into a Wally Pipp situation here with Sorokin, Varlamov. I mean, I think the guys deserve to play more. I mean, he's got the 933 save percentage, which obviously is the same exact save percentage as Shesterkin. I feel like those two guys are always going to be just linked with each other.
Yeah,
but
they're always going to have that.
Yeah, always. And I know I said the same thing in the playoffs, but I got to say it again here. And I know that Barry Trotz seems to just go against the grain, because Barry Trotz is going to do what Barry Trotz wants to do. But how do you go back to Varlamov in this next start? How do you not go with Sorokin after 2 straight shutouts?
I think you go with Sorokin, because if you want him to be the number one, you don't want him sitting for more than 10 days.
That's what I just said.
You saw Alexander Georgiev do that, and his production dropped. That was under David Quinn. So I think you go with Sorokin for the next one, but you do got to come back with Varlamov, because right now he is the number one.
Of course, but like I'm saying, you got to ride the hot end, and not only that, but this is your future. Varlamov is not your future. Sorokin is your future. So you got to start really marinating him and really getting him in there, and that's what I would do. I would go with Sorokin. If he falters a bit, okay, you have Varlamov for the next start. I would say regardless after that, if you want to get Varlamov back in and make sure that he gets some reps so that he's still good, then okay. But go to Sorokin again after that next start, no matter what the outcome is with Varlamov. But Sorokin's got to play this next game.
Anthony, who do the Islanders have the next 2 games, you said?
Nashville, Montreal.
And just as a reminder, I was in Nashville this week. I made a video about my experience in Nashville. Can't wait to have these guys go see a game there because it is a great city. And I got to plug that. Also, it was just on the ticker. So shameless self-promotion. Unfortunately, that's what YouTube always is. What do you think about the Islanders? They're back. They're back over 500. Think this is the last time they're going to be under it the rest of the season? Throw it down in the comments below. Ilya Sorokin, should he be the number 1? Plenty of things to ask questions about. Guys, unfortunately, we're going to have to switch gears to the news story of the week. It's something none of us really want to talk about. But the Blackhawks investigation came to an end. I'm putting down my pen to just cross my arms and just understand the seriousness of this. Blackhawks investigation came to an end yesterday, and Stan Bowman, the GM, is already out. Possibly speaking, Joel Quenneville was going to be out, and I know I already had one of the comments about this before. Phil, take it over. How do you just summarize all this?
A complete unmitigated disaster. Just, I don't understand how this got to this point. I mean, I know that the facts are out there now. The investigation's ended, but just a complete miscarriage of justice. Just an utter travesty. I don't understand why they thought covering anything up would really help them. There were obviously things reported back then. What's being done is not enough. It's like Anthony is saying here, a $2 million fine is not enough. That's not, Arizona lost draft picks for what they did, and what they did was a far less serious offense than what's been going on here, which is a criminal offense, which goes, this transcends the NHL. This is more than about hockey. And I agree. Quenneville needs to be let go for what his comments were about it, and how he said they could not handle this issue right now. I lost a lot of respect for Joel Quenneville.
I think it's a disgrace that he's even going to be behind the bench tonight with
Yep.
Florida. I mean,
Totally.
I know they said he has a meeting with Bettman. I think Thursday. Yeah, tomorrow. They said we'll see what comes of it, but I mean, I don't see how, after everything that came to light the other day, how he could coach. I mean, the Bowman stepped aside. He stepped down from the USA Olympic team position. Quenneville needs to do the same, and Cheveldayoff's not.
He shouldn't have been given the option to step down.
Well, yes, but I'm talking at the very least. I mean,
I understand. I'm just making a point there in the fact that he shouldn't have been given an option to step down. He should have been fired, and that should have been it. And you know what? It's not like these are allegations that are unfounded. Like if it's allegations that are unfounded and they're still pending investigation, then at that point you can suspend indefinitely. And then, if you wanted to step down, then at that point it would be like an admittance of guilt, basically. But he should have been fired flat out. Yeah. And Brad Aldrich, you deserve to rot in jail for the rest of your damn life.
Right. And Cheveldayoff's involved in this too. He has a meeting with Bettman as well.
Yep.
Later this week, so we'll see what comes of that too. But I know Duncan Keith today said that he said some players weren't aware of it. He said some were, but he said there were some players that weren't aware of any of it going on. He expressed how sad of a situation it was, and it is. I mean, it's terrible, and you question their leadership group. Even on the ice, I see that you see that comment right there, but we don't know. Was Taves aware of it? We don't know.
That's a question.
I don't know.
You don't know. But we were talking about this in our group chat, and I was trying to figure out how is there an adequate way? How is there an adequate way to suspend any of these people, fine them? What is the right amount and right to everything else? There's one comment that always sticks in my mind, reading some of this stuff. It was, we don't need this right now. We don't know how far the Blackhawks, this is the furthest the Blackhawks have been, and we're trying to win a Stanley Cup. I don't know. I don't remember who said it. I think it was one of the executives.
It was Joel Quenneville. I think the quote that I tweeted in the here. I'll pull that up in a second, actually.
Okay.
But it was Joel Quenneville, and it was in regard to here. I'm just trying to. Okay. So the tweet from Rick Westhead, who, by the way, was the reporter that got all this information, brought everything to the surface, and incredible job by Rick. Incredible work. Some of the best journalistic work we've seen in quite some time when it comes to sports. But the tweet said, Bowman recalled that after learning of the incident, Quenneville shook his head and said that it was hard for the team to get to where they were, and they could not deal with this issue right now.
There was another quote that I'm thinking of. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, there was another one which I posted right before that. Reed Shar, who was a former U.S. assistant defense attorney. Shar, the tweet from Rick Westhead says, Shar writes about the meeting of Blackhawks officials. According to the director of human resources, Jim Gary, said that during the meeting, Joel Quenneville appeared angry and was concerned about upsetting team chemistry. That's like two damning quotes right there.
Because, okay, so how many Stanley Cups did it take for them to eventually bring this to light? They won 3 damn cups. They never mentioned, they never did the right thing. Like, this should have been you should have taken care of it right away. It should have been now.
Yeah, hey, and here to Anthony's quote, Cheveldayoff got a letter of commendation too, or recommendation. Brad Aldrich got a recommendation for a high school team and went on to sexually assault a minor. How when you knew this was happening in an organization to a 22-year-old intern, did anyone in the right mind think that it was okay to recommend this guy to work with high schoolers, to work with minors? This guy should be in jail for the rest of his life. I know that sexually predatory crimes like rape and assault and stuff like that, they usually don't get life sentences. But this guy has assaulted multiple people. He is a serial sexual predator and assaulter.
But again, why did we need to? It should have just been reported. Go to the police. It is not your decision to just be silent on this. Mm-hmm. This kid's life was ruined.
I feel terrible for the victims. And as a hockey fan, it's disgraceful because I've said this about this, and I've said it on here. Hockey is the best sport. The NHL is the worst league. Worst league. And Steven's right. The NHL has no moral compass. He's mentioned the Craig McTavish basically drunk driving and killing a woman, and how he, how he still played afterwards. Bobby Hull is another one who, funny enough, ties with the Chicago Blackhawks. Bobby Hull was cited in a news report years ago as chasing an ex-wife with a chainsaw around his house. Chainsaw.
It's just to get back to this. As soon as there was a report on it, it shouldn't have been we'll do something about it eventually. Let's just go win a Stanley Cup first.
Yeah.
That's what's irritating about this. And Anthony, you're a father. What goes through your mind thinking about this?
Disgust. Absolute disgust. It should have never happened, and it seems like it was swept under the rug because they wanted to win a championship, but it's totally wrong, and that's why I think I really hope that after meeting with Bettman that Quenneville just does the right thing and steps down. If he's not willing to do that, then the league's got to take action and fire him. Because if the Panthers do at least, but if they don't, then it's literally a slap in the face. So.
And you're right about that. It would be a total slap in the face for them to not do anything about that in the wake of this. And I was a huge Joel Quenneville fan. Loved his work in St. Louis. I liked the Blues a lot growing up. I watched a lot of their hockey even after Wayne Gretzky left. But Joel Quenneville, his resume is a Hall of Fame resume. But I can't see letting someone like this into the Hall of Fame after knowing what his stance was on all this and how he allowed this to be perpetrated and swept under the rug. My question is, because there was involvement from the NHLPA, this was reported to the NHLPA, Don Fair was made aware of this.
All this available on Twitter.
Yeah, and how much of this was being covered up by the NHL? How much did Gary Bettman know? Because if this is going to open up a whole can of worms where NHL executives knew about this, then there are a lot of people who need to be held accountable, whose heads need to roll.
I'm still processing everything, as even when there's another sentence that's uttered about this, the news on this. Again, number one, Joel Quenneville, if the team doesn't need it right now, it's not on your pay grade, you call the police. That's what you do. This is not if you want to be like, oh, it's not our job or try to focus on no, you call the police. This is not a matter of hockey. Everybody could figure out about it. Just
yeah, you don't sweep something like this under the rug. This is one of the biggest scandals I've seen in sports. And I think this is bigger than steroids. I know that the steroid scandal in baseball was huge. I know that the betting scandal in baseball was huge with Pete Rose, and then obviously years and years back the Chicago Black Sox, if you will, with their involvement
on the level. That's what the game. That's
the game. This is criminal. And it's criminal negligence that they swept this under the rug the way that they did. And this organization, you went from being a poster child of the league, winning 3 Stanley Cups in 6 seasons, being the face of the new NHL, to being an utter embarrassment and disgrace to the sport. And you know what? And Steven's right. Ignoring to report a crime, and by doing so, facilitating the perpetrator continue to make those crimes, that's complicity right there. That is 110% complicity. They were complicit in allowing Aldrich to continue to do it for as long as he did. They were complicit in getting him hired by a high school team. And you know what? And yes, and right before we got on, I mentioned the Graham James situation to you, Mark, and how Graham James basically molested a ton of players in junior over, I would say, like a 5-year span or so, maybe less than that. And Anthony, when we were at the station, remember, we got to interview Sheldon Kennedy, who was one of the players involved in that.
Yeah, I remember that.
I believe, a teammate of Theo Fleury's.
Yeah.
So,
it's also the one that I pointed out beforehand was Penn State.
Yeah.
And how do you not learn from what happened there? It took
That's
down
a great point.
It just proves one thing, because I mean, even if I want to sit here and defend Joe Paterno in that situation, and I still think personally Graham Spanier had a lot more to do with that, but it has you can't enable somebody like that. That's disgusting. It's criminal.
Yeah.
It's funny because this stuff continues to happen because there is a stigma in hockey, and that stigma is the old boys club. And I remember, I know I'm switching gears just a tiny bit here, but there is relevance to what I'm saying. Back when the Tom Wilson incident happened, on Twitter, Marc Mathot was tweeting about all this stuff, and I quote tweeted him on something, and I told him that he's not somebody that should be, basically laughing at Rangers fans and talking about it, because there is a stigma in hockey. Marc Mathot told me that there was no stigma in hockey and that I was making all that up. Well, Mark, if you're listening, you're watching, whatever, or if you ever somehow come across this, which I doubt you will, and I doubt you'd even acknowledge it, but guess what, Mark? There is a stigma. It's called the old boys club, and you're seeing it come to light, and it needs to end. It needs to be getting rid of. It's absolutely ridiculous. And another great point from Steven here. Brendan Leipzig insults people in a private group chat, and he's done with the NHL. Austin Matthews, he assaults a woman or harasses a woman, whatever he did. Because we still never got the full details on what he did. I think there's stuff being covered up there, but I mean, he gets Lady Bing votes, and there's nothing done to Austin Matthews. No, the league doesn't have. They have standards, Steven. They have double standards. It's what they have. So this needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be dealt with swiftly because there's a lot of stuff. I feel that you're gonna get more light on from more people eventually. And I don't know if you saw this. I'm going to pull this up because I was in a group DM. Rick Westhead actually also tweeted tonight on SportsCenter. We're joined by John Doe, the former Blackhawks player at the center of the team's sexual abuse scandal. He has asked us to reveal his identity, and you will hear him speak his truth. So this player that's at the center of all this is going to come to light, and he's going to reveal himself. And he's probably going to bring this entire organization down with him. And you know what? Good riddance. Good riddance. You wanted to sweep this up. You wanted to cover it up and sweep it under the rug. Now you're getting what you deserve. That's karma.
What I'm glad about this in one way is maybe sports. I guess maybe two ways. People haven't reacted to this and tried to claim cancel culture or some bullshit like that. This isn't that.
No.
This is not even close to that. No. This is something that should have been taken care of the second anyone knew about it. And hearing about different involvement of different executives, we're not comfortable about talking about this either.
Disgusting.
It's because we're going to be changing gears to be a little bit more humorous in about a few minutes, but it's an absolute disgusting thing. And I'm also happy that from what I've seen, it's been mostly support for the player and condemnation for those who were involved. And it's unfortunate because they're stepping right back into NFL territory and how just.
But D. Ely says it right here. I mean, Patrick Kane assaulted a cabbie in Buffalo and got a slap on the wrist for it. And you're right. There's no consistency in anything that's done here. And I said this before, and Steven just bringing it up again. I said to you earlier on, right before we got on, Mark, what did I say?
First round draft picks.
First round picks for 5 years, and how much did I say in cash? 50 million.
No, 50 million, I think you said. You said a lot.
50 million.
Yeah,
Start hitting. I know that won't happen, but start hitting them where it hurts and send a goddamn message. Send a message. Stop this shit. It's awful. And it continues to perpetrate because the NHL is easy on them. It's easy. Oh, you're a first-time offender. We're just going to, tap you on the wrist. No big deal there. That's all. We're just going to give you a little tap. Oh, here, let's get the ruler. We'll tap you. That's it. Nothing.
Hey, Anthony, I'm just going to go rapid fire with you on a lot of just some of the greats of all time. We ever hear Wayne Gretzky misbehaving?
No.
Gordie Howe misbehaving?
No.
Bobby Orr misbehaving? Mark Messier? I mean, yes, there's the incident with Dennis Potvin. Haven't heard anything else about him. Brian Trottier, no problem. Mike Bossy, no problem. We could go through the long list. And of course, the great Rod Gilbert, who just departed us this year. Those are the players. Those are the players you should try to emulate and the class you should try to have.
Yeah.
Organizations, the next time anything that happens with this, don't mince words. Don't think about other things except picking up the phone and calling the cops.
Yeah, and another one from Steven, who's on the mark today. Sorry, I used it. I know.
Steven can use it.
But
that boy Steven in the house.
If you don't punish the people when they're breaking the rules, you're sending a message that it's okay, and you're complicit in that because you're encouraging it. Basically,
it's all about culture too. You have to have that culture of always doing the right thing. And clearly Chicago didn't have that. I mean, could you imagine if that happened under Lou's watch?
Well, it wouldn't.
Yeah, Lou.
It wouldn't happen under Barry's watch either.
No.
You saw what happened with Bodie Wild and refusing to get unvaccinated. You think Lou would have said okay to that? No, Lou would have nipped this at the bud. Lou,
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, I know you're not touching that. That's fine. I'm not gonna get into that. But I'm just saying, Lou takes action on things, and he doesn't let them get out of hand. Like the same thing I said with the Tony DeAngelo incident. If you have better leadership, if you have a better coach, a situation like that doesn't blow up the way that it did.
No.
If there was a better leader at hand and a better group that would have sat down and addressed the situation, then we wouldn't be talking about this now. It would have been a headline that would have gotten a certain amount of attention back then, and Brad Aldrich would have been, probably thrown in jail, and that would have been good. And he would have never had a chance to sexually assault or abuse anybody else.
Yeah. And again, good thing the Blackhawks decided to call the investigation on themselves. So, guys, we had a lot that had to go into this.
How much credit can you give the organization when they swept it under the rug for as long as they did?
I know.
I can't even.
I'm not giving him credit. I'm saying at least it was.
I know you're not.
Yeah.
I know you're not. But it just. I think about that, and okay, you know what? Good. They got to it, but they got to it way too late, and they tried to cover it up, and it's a terrible look for everyone involved, and it's horrible because you ruined 3 people's lives, and for what? For Brad Aldrich, a serial sexual
monster, a monster. Let's just call him
a monster, an absolute monster, a scourge of the earth. Rot in jail for the rest of your damn life, piece of shit.
I think that kind of speaks for all of us. So, we're gonna change gears and go on with the show, and let's do some bar talk.
Yeah, let's lighten up a bit.
We also, by the way, got a lot still to go over with you guys. But first, we're going to this one.
I'm going to take a shot on this one. I'm going to say beer.
I'm buying everybody around on this. Oh, my God.
Can I just say that I'm so happy that it doesn't say All Things Rangers anymore?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I do somewhat miss that saying the All Things Rangers, but it always reminds us where we started, how this all came from, and it still exists, everybody. I still haven't quit using All Things Rangers. But everybody, welcome back to the Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk. The juxtaposition we really needed at this moment, where we gauge our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice to drink. Are you feeling so confident? You're buying everybody in the bar. You just want a beer? It's just like, I'll do that. Or you need a shot because I just really need a shot on this. All right. So first things first, the New York Rangers should be concerned about Artemi Panarin, Mr. Filkowski.
I'm going to say beer. And for the reasons I outlined before, missing his center. Kakko should be back Friday, they're saying, which is great news for Rangers fans. But he still didn't look great with Mika Zibanejad, who's had a small amount of success playing with, in terms of their sample size, I should say, the 6 games at the beginning of the 1920 season, and then some overlapping shifts at even strength. But I'll give Artemi Panarin some breathing room here just because of the fact that he hasn't had his line mates, and FIlip and him don't seem to click at all. So I'm going to say beer, but because there's definitely some things that he's doing that I'm not a fan of, like his decision-making with the puck has been really weird. His passing has just been off. Something about his game overall has just looked off aside from not having his line mates. So there are some things that I want to see change with him, but I think having Reinstrom and Kakko will help in that regard. So beer.
Anthony.
Make the short and sweet. He's an elite player in this league. He's not playing like it right now. The Rangers need him to be that player, and right now his game just looks completely off. but I think he'll figure it out because he's too good not to. Beer.
Okay. I will actually go to shot. And the reason why I'm going to go with shot is because it's Artemi Panarin. He's played for now several different coaches: Quenneville, Savard, Quinn, and now Gallant. Trevor Gallant is a hell of a coach. And I mean, you play for John Tortorella, you can play for anybody. So he'll be fine. Don't worry about that. He's going to be fine. All right, moving on. This one's going to go right back to you, Anthony. Islanders Zach Parise is not going to fit in.
I mean, I'm going to go. I'm going to go shot because he hasn't registered a point yet, but he's played on the PK, which he's been good on. And the line with Wahlstrom and Pajot, he's got in on the forecheck. He's freed up pucks to get to Wahlstrom. And listen, he's what he is at this point. He plays on the third line. He's not in their top six. He knows his role in the team. Like I said, he gives you 10 to 15 goals. It's a win. But Wahlstrom has already said that seeing Parise around every day and how he's a pro and how he works, has been good for him, and that alone for Wahlstrom, their best young player and best forward, best shooter. That's a positive. So I think it's a good fit for him. For me, it's a shot. I'm not expecting to be anything else.
What I'm going to ask a question here, but by not going to fit, kind of explain that a little bit. I'm sorry, because it just fit in what regard?
I guess produce as an Islander, or they're not going to find the role for him?
Well, I mean, if you're saying not going to find a role, I'm going to say shot.
Okay.
Because I think so far in that line, he looks like a piece that works pretty well with the other two pieces. I mean, he's not going to give you the points that he gave you like in his early to middle of the pack days in Minnesota, or even his best Devils days, obviously. But I mean, if he's in there on the forecheck, which he is, he's still decent at that. I mean, Anthony alluded to the fact that he's a decent penalty killer still. I mean, he's winning puck battles along the boards. He's getting the puck to the other guys that really need the puck on that line, like Wahlstrom and Pajot. I think he fits pretty well. He's not going to give you a ton of points anymore. And I think as an Islander fan, if you had to have that understanding that you weren't getting the Zach Parise of 2009. So I have to say shot here. All
right. I'm only saying beer for this because I still wonder what his role is going to end up being. It doesn't matter whether or not he doesn't have a point or not. I still don't know. And the player himself, he'll be receptive to whatever he's going to be for the Islanders. Zach Parise is a guy that could be on my team 6 days a week and twice on Sunday. I just don't know where he's going to be. Is he going to be first line? He's not going to put him on the second line. I doubt they're breaking up the Bs.
We already said what he is. He plays on the third line with Parise and Wahlstrom.
He could move up. I'm just saying it could happen. So I'm a little confused by that. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine, but it's just I also don't know. So it's fair to say you don't know sometimes. By the way, Anthony, every time you stop the camera, you get better looking. So
all right, so now we have Marc hitting on Anthony.
Well, no, not hitting on Anthony, hitting on myself with my headshot.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anthony is a stud. I mean, he's not a
I know. He's our beefcake. He's the one.
Yeah.
All right. This one, another tailor-made one for John Falkowski. Connor McDavid will break 150 points. And let me start it by saying, God, I hope I'm buying everybody around. And I'll tell you why. Because I got him on my fantasy team. Score 400. I don't care. Just get past 150. So I want to say that he could definitely do it with his play. I mean, I can't believe he's doing it with the line mates that he's got. All right, but he ain't doing it. He ain't getting 200 with Curry and Glenn Anderson and Tikkanen the way Gretzky did. But go ahead, John.
I'm going to be bold here and I'm going to buy around.
I
think
I'm going to use this one.
I think he's going to do it. I think Connor McDavid really is under the bright lights right now, and they went out and they made some improvements to the team. Well, it's debatable whether they're improvements or not at this point, but we'll see. But they went out and they got some players in. I know they lost Adam Larson, but they brought in a veteran in Duncan Keith. They brought in Cody Ceci. That's bold, Steven. That's bold. That is really, really bold. But Connor McDavid has now added a one-timer to his arsenal. Like, that's scary to think about because that guy, I remember at the 2017 All-Star game, he was doing the accuracy shooting contest. And he was like, this is not really made for me because I don't really have a great shot. Well, he went out and improved that. And now he's adding a one-timer to it. And he's already the best player in the game. So I honestly think that the sky's the limit for him. He's scoring at a near 3-point per game pace right now. I know that's probably not going to sustain, but I mean, I think he's going to do it this year. He was on pace for it last year. I think he does it this year.
Anthony,
I'm going round. I mean,
I'm going to go with this one again.
He's clearly the best player in the league. I think the most talented player the league has ever seen in pure skill. And you know, like you see, look what he did last year. The guy had over 100 points in 56 games, and he's basically, you know, picking up where he left off. Him and Draisaitl, none of them show signs of any slowing down anytime soon. And I just think he's too talented not to. I think he's really going to reach a benchmark here that we haven't seen in a very long time.
He's just got so many tools, and it's unbelievable. But we're going to go from one number one overall draft pick in Connor McDavid to a guy with another load of talent in his team. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in serious trouble, guys. Anthony?
I'm actually going to say kind of dates back to what we talked about when the seasons first started, when the Islanders lost 2 games. It's still early. So serious trouble, I'm going to go shot. It's not listen, they're not in a good situation. They're struggling. We all know what their flaws are because it seems like Kyle Dubas has never fixed it, doesn't learn. But they don't really defend the best. They lost Mrazek to an injury, which I thought already as it is, and with him healthy, Mrazek Campbell isn't the best goaltending situation. And again, I think they're kind of, I described them as a paper tiger in the past, but now their issue is that Florida's for real and they've arrived. So that just adds another team they have to battle with, because prior to the Panthers really breaking out, it was just the Bruins and the Lightning. So you knew they were going to grab at least one of those 3 spots. But now at Florida, you know, that's in question. The good thing for them is I don't think Boston's really that good of a team either. I think that's a saving grace for them. I don't think Dubas will let it get too far away. I think if things trend down, you know, pretty significantly here, I don't think he's going to let tailspin to the point where it's going to be beyond fixable. I think he might make a move, whether it be a coaching move or make a move in the room to shake things up. But it's just too early to say they're in serious trouble. I don't like them overall with their makeup, but I think Matthews and Marner and Nylander.
You also don't like them for other reasons.
Yeah. Well, is enough talent to at least bring them to the dance. But yeah, I mean, if things, I would say as of right now, their best case scenario is they squeak into the playoffs and they lose again in the first round. But but I'm going shot here just because I think it's too early, but I don't like the early signs.
Filk.
I'm also going with a shot. I think that this team is just too good in terms of talent to miss the playoffs. If they miss the playoffs, then everybody's heads have got to roll at that point. You really got to start making some serious moves at that point. I'd imagine Dubas would be gone. Maybe even Sheldon Keefe would even be gone at that point as well. But I agree with Anthony. I think they would make a coaching change and probably a GM change before they do any type of serious moves, especially if they're in some sort of tailspin and the organization feels that they need better management choices at the top. I think they would make that move before the deadline so that that new GM could make the right moves for the team heading into the playoffs. I think that just makes too much sense at that point. I don't think Boston is still better than the Leafs at this point. I think the Leafs are just playing bad hockey. Austin Matthews obviously coming back from a wrist injury. That's not helping them. William Nylander was playing well to start the season. You need more from Mitch Marner. You need more from John Tavares. And you need more from Morgan Riley. Their goaltending really isn't that good. I would say, if anything, when we get to like the 20-game mark and they're 500 or under or something like that, I would really start to be a little more concerned at that point. But again, it's way too early. And Anthony, you brought up Florida. And I'm not trying to go back to what we were just talking about before, but what happens to Florida if Joel Quenneville is fired or is forced to step down or whatever?
That's a great question.
Because that could really hurt the Panthers.
That is a great question.
And you got to remember, the Panthers, they're not without flaws. Yeah, they have a good goaltending tandem, and Bobrovsky looks to be bouncing back, and Spencer Knight looks to be the future, and their forward group is great, but their defense is still a little questionable. They need really another,
especially if Ekblad goes down again.
Yeah, Ekblad goes down. If they need another top 4 defenseman as it is. So if they don't make that move, and the coaching situation ends up being a problem with everything with this, then that could hurt Florida and that could help Toronto. So I'm not ready to really get to sky is falling mode with Toronto yet. So shot.
Okay. I'm gonna take a beer. The reason why and I even threw this up there, guys. It's not just that I don't like. I mean, I like the Maple Leafs. I've never been against the Maple Leafs. But what exactly do they hang their hats on? I mean, that's great. First off, by the way, I love Steve Dangle. He's excellent.
So do I. His video.
And Leafs fan reaction is amazing. But what does this team really hang their hat on? I don't think they're as good offensively as they were 2 years ago. I don't think they're good defensively at all. They have no grit. Last year was a fake scale. They were the best of the worst in a weak North division. When we posed the same question last week with Montreal, the answer was buy everybody around. Montreal was done.
Montreal
has talent to be okay.
Yeah, right, but here's the thing about Montreal. I know the division they're in at this point. It's just too good. But even them,
no Weber, no Price.
I don't think you're truly done until you're maybe 10 or 12 games under 500. I mean, right now are they 1-6? The Habs?
Yeah, the Habs.
You could go on a run and get back to 500.
Even them, they're not done. But I mean, that's a daunting task they have to look up to, though. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I'll say this to just to quickly address the rest of D. Ely's comment, which this is a great post, by the way. I will disagree that Matthews and Marner's numbers were inflated because of last year, because who they played all year. You might be right about that to a point, but Austin Matthews in 2020 was on pace for over 50 goals, my friend. You got to remember that. And yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that part. Mitch Marner was a 90-point player in 2019. So I don't agree with that, but you're right. Last year was a fake scale, and they were the top dogs of a really bad division.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it up with this regarding the Maple Leafs. If they fail to make the playoffs, or if they get bounced again in the first round, this is the year where I would say it's probably a 90% chance that. Well, yeah, but I was also one of the big four is going, and it's probably Nylander or Marner because Matthews ain't going anywhere. And no one's touching that Tavares contract.
Nope.
Either Nylander or Marner.
And again, but the word actually, I highlighted serious, but the word trouble is in there. And I'm still not really liking Campbell and Mrazek, the two of them in that either. So I don't think they're going to do it with goaltending and defense. I think they're going to have to do it with their offense. And I don't think they're as good offensively as they were. So, but we're going to stick with the same trouble line, And Jeremy Colleton is going to be the first coach fired. Filk.
I'm buying everybody around on this because I just think that Chicago, it has nothing to do with everything else that's going on, but that team is just so bad right now, and they overpaid mightily for Seth Jones. More on that in a bit. To get him, and they gave up Adam Boquist and the equivalent of 2 other first-round picks. And now you got an overpaid $9.5 million defenseman who can't carry a defense corps because he hasn't played well since the 2017-18 season ended, in which he was playing near Norris caliber hockey. So you got that. Marc-Andre Fleury can't carry that team because the defense is just so bad. Obviously, this team is probably going to further fall into an even bigger tailspin with everything that's going on. And eventually it's going to lead to Colleton being fired. So I'm buying around on this.
Which, by the way, the hard part about buying around on whenever I use that graphic is that we crush Anthony's head every single time the glass is cracked.
Oh, that's all right.
Anthony, go ahead.
I don't mind 2 brewskis being by my face.
Nobody wants that.
I was going to go round, but then I thought about Montreal's situation in Ducharme, and
He's got a leash. He's got a leash.
Because Weber's basically retired, and I know
Weber's gone. Price is gone. He's got a leash.
But that's still a bad situation there. The wheels are falling off the bus, but yeah, I ultimately think it will be Colleton, though. I mean, they're a tire fire right now. But the Montreal aspect kept me at beer. But I mean, it could very easily happen with Colleton, and soon.
You know something? I'm buying. I was trying to debate on it for a second. I didn't want to go around on it. I just, again, speaking about a guy, what exactly do they hang their hat on? Usually it's a shooting gallery in Chicago every single year. You go out, you spend the money on Jones, and you get Fleury, and so far I don't think they still led 1 second of a game this year.
No, they haven't. They haven't. They haven't led a single second. And you improve your offense by bringing back Jonathan Taves, who you missed last year. And then you brought in Tyler Johnson. Even though Tyler Johnson's not the 2015 Tyler Johnson from the Triplets line, you still thought that he could give you something to help out. But
they can't get a lead?
But the forwards haven't helped out the defense. The defense is a tire fire. And you have last year's Vezina winner who's going to be, 37 years old? That's when players start to decline, and especially goaltenders. It's harder on the body with goaltenders because constant up and down, going into the butterfly, going down to your knees, that wears on you as a player. So when you have an aging goaltender like that and a poor defense in front of him and just poor overall structure as a team in front of him, that makes it 10 times harder on Fleury. Fleury can't save them like he saved Vegas because Vegas actually had structure with Gallant. They got no structure in Colleton in Chicago.
And that's part of his coaching style, too. That's what's even weirder. But we're going to move on to, we're going to stay with Chicago. Seth Jones has one of the worst contracts in the league. Anthony?
So are we still like guys like Louis Eriksson and Andrew Ladd only have a year or 2 left? Are we still counting those guys?
No, because their contracts are off the books at the end of this season, and you get to worry. You don't have to worry about them after that.
All right. So if they're off the, I mean, I guess you're talking Jeff Skinner's definitely one of them.
Jeff Skinner's probably the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go round. So because again, if guys like Lucic and Eriksson and Ladd aren't counted anymore because they're ending in a year or 2, then yeah, I'm going to say round that Seth Jones' contract is going to be one of the worst in the league for sure. Because, right, it hasn't even kicked in yet. It starts next year. Yeah, at the rate that he's playing, unless he goes back to the Seth Jones of 2017, 2018, and 18, 19, then it's not going to age well. So I'm going to go round there.
This round, and there was never a question of whether it was anything else, because there's no way that you can give someone like him $9.5 million to be an absolute dumpster fire as a first pairing defenseman on a team that lacks depth to begin with. Jeff Skinner's contract is probably the only one that's worse than his. You want to talk about Darnell Nurse? Okay, Darnell Nurse got overpaid. We get it. I didn't like that contract either because it was only for one good solid season of hockey. But at least Darnell Nurse looks like a top pairing defenseman right now. Seth Jones does not look like a top pairing defenseman at all. He looks like a number 4, number 5. And in comparison, you have some of the better contracts in the league, like Steven's saying here, Slavin, McKinnon, so on. I mean, we talked about McDonough having one of the best contracts in the league for a long time while he was with the Rangers because he was making less than $5 million and he was a legitimate number 1 defenseman. But Seth Jones got to be a provincial selection for Team USA because of the now I don't even know the word to describe Stan Bowman now.
Former GM.
Yeah. Just former GM. Wanted to play favorites and nepotism and hire his own there, obviously. But because you know what? Seth Jones has just been brutal. He's been bad since that 2017-18 season ended. If you look at the analytics, they're awful. They're awful. And the eye test supports them too. So this is going to be a real bad contract for Chicago for a very long time unless they find somebody to come in and help him out or they draft a legitimate top pairing defenseman. But, oh, wait, I forgot. They traded a potential top pairing defenseman away in Adam Boquist to get Seth Jones. Yeah. If we were playing Press Your Luck, this would be a double whammy.
Well, okay, so I really want to say Beer. I really do because I like Seth Jones as a player. And I think a new coach and maybe even if they could just find him a better defense pair, they'll be fine. But I got to buy everybody around on this. As of right now, things are presently constructed. There is no chance he's going to be able to do anything to justify that contract. Oh boy, that contract. The Pittsburgh Penguins play is unsustainable. Mr. Fikowski, I believe this one was yours.
Yeah, I'm going to buy around on this. I don't see how they can continue to do what they're doing, and they'll have to start playing better teams. Tampa Bay, obviously, you've seen from their start so far that they've taken a hit. Nikita Kucherov being out hasn't helped them either. But Pittsburgh will not be able to do this. Yeah, that's a good one, Brody. How do we LTIR Seth Jones for 8 years? I mean, you could ask the Islanders about Andrew Ladd. Lou might be able to help you with that. But, yeah, I don't see how Pittsburgh continues this. Gensel is out. Carter's out now. Crosby's still out. Malkin's going to be out for, I think, at least another month or so. How do they – and now Letang's out too. So how do they continue to win games like this? I don't see how it continues. I'm saying round.
Anthony.
Round. I mean, I still Tristan Jarry, I think, is still not like a formidable goaltender. Yeah, they've had some success with their top guys out, but again, that's not really going to last once they really start to get into the meat and the potatoes of the season here. And then, again, I think Jarry's going to, reintroduce the true self soon. And again, I know Crosby coming back will help. Malkin in a month will help. But I still think this team's on the downward trend, despite, what we've seen here in the beginning of the season. They always say like American Thanksgiving is like the benchmark to where, like, if you're in a playoff spot, typically you end up making it and you really see what teams are by that point. I think by that point, I think they're going to be much lower in the standings.
Yeah, because the only team I think after American Thanksgiving that really surprised everybody was the St. Louis Blues. Yeah. There's only one reason why I'm going Beer, guys, and that's who's got the most Stanley Cup rings as a coach in the Metro Division. That would be Mike Sullivan.
Yep.
So it's one of those moments where you go, I wish like my team had him as an assistant coach and then maybe promoted him. I don't know. Maybe he would have been our coach with 2 Stanley Cup rings. Don't know. We'll never know. But still, back to this. Mike Sullivan's doing a good job in Pittsburgh. I know it's easy to do it with Crosby on that roster, but this team, they've started out pretty well. They should drop off a little bit with all their injuries, but then once they get their guys back, look out for them. And yes, Anthony, I'm with you. Tristan Jarry eventually is going to be Tristan Jarry, the one-armed goaltender that doesn't know how to work a glove. Play baseball for a minute. So anyway, let's go to Motown. Lucas Raymond will be a Calder Trophy finalist. And boys, I'm going to start it off by buying everybody around. I know we had our Calder Trophy guys that we were picking before the season. Mine was his teammate, Moritz Seider. He's looking pretty good, guys. Can't ignore that. He became the 3rd teenager in Detroit history to score 4 points in a game. Can you name the other 2?
Wait, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Lucas Raymond became the 3rd teenager to score 4 points in a game.
Steve Yzerman.
1.
3rd teenager, and the other player was a teenager that scored.
You don't have to think that hard.
4 points against Sergei Fedorov.
Nope. Anthony
Lidstrom.
Gordie Howe.
Oh,
that's quite an impressive thing. Granted, he's got 4 goals of the season. 3 of the 4 were in one game, but right now he leads rookies. Let's see if that is the case later. Anthony.
I think Round. We kind of forgot about him. 4th overall in 2020. Maybe because he just plays for the Red Wings, but he was highly touted in his draft year, and I think he's looked the part so far in Detroit. I mean, he's one of their best young players aside from what Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi. He's really also helping fill the void of Jacob Rana, who's out for a while with his shoulder, and I think Raymond's going to get the playing time for Detroit. So unless he really kind of hits a wall, I don't think he's just going to disappear. And, this rookie class, I'm not saying it's weak because you got guys like Zegras and Drysdale, Cole Sillinger and, Caulfield. So you got, McTavish. So you got a bunch of guys, but I think he can hang with all of them, frankly. So I'm going to go Round, and I'm fairly confident in that.
Filk.
I was teetering on this one. And I was teetering between Beer and Round. But thinking about it, I think I got to buy a Round. Like Anthony said, the ice time thing is huge, especially for a rookie. And obviously we've seen this with Kakko and the Vitaly Kravtsov situation and Alexis Lafreniere and getting these guys in and getting them their minutes and proper utilization too is a big key. And Detroit seems like they're just utilizing Raymond perfectly. The offensive zone start times are in his favor. They're not putting him in defensive roles or anything like that, or having the majority of his shifts start in the defensive zone, which is big because you don't want to do that to a rookie and put too much on his plate. They're just letting him go out there. And also, he's playing in Detroit. There's no pressure on him to produce. He's just going out there and playing hockey and having fun and just developing and proving himself. And that's what it should be about for rookies. They shouldn't have to bear the load of an entire franchise or organization on their shoulders right off the bat. And Lucas Raymond isn't going to have to do that there. That team's not expected to win. So I think I'm going to have to really buy a Round on this.
Anthony, one of the hazards of being Italian is that if you notice, I'm always holding a pen, but it's also I accidentally broke it as I'm playing around with it because you need to have something in your hands when you're talking in your Italian.
Is that a Chase pen?
A what?
Is that a Chase pen from Chase Bank?
No, I got it from a hotel I was at last or 2 years ago.
Never mind. I was about to
say from Barefoot Resorts in was that actually South Carolina? Was that Arizona? I don't know. I'll look that up another time. But moving on, Andrew Mangiapane is one of the top underrated players in the league. Filk?
Yeah. I know it seems like we're doing a lot of rounds and shots here with little to no beers, but I'm going around here. And I'm not just saying that because of his 6-game start leading the NHL with 7 goals, but this was a guy last year that was on pace for 26 goals and 47 points. And he doesn't quit on plays. He's a play driver. He wasn't playing top 6 minutes for the most part. He was really kind of like a third liner. And even in 2019 or 2019-20, he scored at a near 40-point pace then and had almost 20 goals as well. So this is somebody who's really been under the radar for the last few years. I don't know if you could really call Alexander Barkov underrated anymore after he won the Selke. And he had a 90-point year a few years back. So Andrew Mangiapane is probably taking his spot right now. Is probably the most underrated player in the league, in my opinion, at least.
I put an R in there, didn't I? I called him Margiapane, didn't I?
I think you called Mangiapane. I think.
Or Mangiapane. Anthony, jump on in.
I'm gonna go beer. I mean, he's 2 years ago he had 17 goals. Last year at 18. He's got 6 or 7 this year so far. So he definitely score, and he brings some heaviness to his game as well. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's a good piece for Calgary. He kind of supports Gaudreau and Monahan and Lindholm. I think a lot of teams would like him in the league. The reason I'm not going round is because there's so many guys that I think have been doing it longer than him that kind of don't get the love that they might deserve.
Okay, but let's distinguish something though. You don't have to necessarily be the best player to be the most underrated.
That's true. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, you're talking to a guy who's an Islander. I mean, I thought Franz Nielsen was at the top of this category for the longest time in his heyday.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's true.
Which again, Jerome McGinley was probably the top of this category for the longest time. But when you keep saying a guy is the most underrated, eventually he's rated.
I don't know how long McGinley was there for. McGinley, what it was probably I think his 6th season was the one where he won the Rocket.
The Rocket, yeah. Did he share the Rocket one more time after that?
Yeah, 2001. Yeah, so he wasn't really underrated for a long time, but
if you knew anything about hockey, you would know that. Which, by the way, I'm going to beer, and one reason why I'm going to go with I would go with Sebastian Aho, but again, same thing too. He's the heir apparent to Alexander Barkov, but I'm going to go beer, and I'm going to actually use the words that Filk said. Underrated. I don't know if he's underrated. I think he's breaking out right now, which I think if he's breaking out, then he becomes underrated because people aren't going to talk about him as he's breaking out. But that's just playing with that a little bit. And guys, we were talking about dirty play earlier in the day, but PK Subban is proof that the NHL is not hard enough on slewfoots. Anthony, take it away.
We're gonna go round. When he did it with Reeves, I had said like how he reacted afterwards. How like he seemed like generally concerned about Reeves, didn't really leave his side. I'm like, all right, well, clearly that was an accident. He didn't mean it. But then when I saw what he did the other night, it was basically a carbon copy to the slewfoot on Reeves. And I'm like, oh, well, now it's kind of almost becoming a thing where, it's obvious when you look back on, the Reeves situation. And, Subban seems like a great guy. We all know about the charitable work he did with Montreal. And, he does a program. He did a program in Nashville with like Blue Line Buddies where he brought in like a guy from the inner community and, introduced him to a cop. And, so he's a good guy. He does a lot, but that doesn't absolve him of kind of what he does on the ice. And I think it's becoming a little bit too much of a thing with him here with, two slewfoots in like a month and a half. But yeah, I think this is pretty clear cut that it's around. And as far as in general, I think it is a dangerous thing that they need to really, I know they cracked down on cross checks. That was a focus on the offseason. They put more emphasis to call it. But you need you need to watch Slewfoots because it could be really dangerous. Because a lot of times the guy doesn't see it coming because you kick his leg out with your leg, and before you know it, he's on your back. You could hit your head. You could twist your knee awkwardly.
Your foot could be stuck in the ice.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned to hit your head. That the thing that I was thinking of it because I've been slew-footed before, and thankfully
I think we all have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all three of us have. But the thing I thought of was Joe Pavelski and how he had that bad fall in the playoffs a couple of years ago that led to San Jose coming back, winning that game, winning that series against Vegas. But this is the one of the worst plays in hockey. It's probably the dirtiest play in hockey, aside from, I would say, cup checking someone. For everyone who knows that is, it's a spear right to the cojones.
I'll say it's even dirtier, but go ahead.
I would say it's dirtier too, but you can't slap them. You can't slap PK Subban on a wrist fine like this. You've got to start making examples of players that do things like this and really start cracking down on them. They're not hard enough on it. They're not. So I'm buying around, and if you're going to continue to slap players on the wrist, these things are going to continue to happen. And then someone's really going to get hurt in the NHL is going to be, face palming again. Oh, we had to address that, but we didn't. And now we look like idiots. So yeah, how about you start addressing it now?
Well, Colin Campbell's still in the league's office, right? I believe he is.
Yeah, he's involved. Yeah.
When he got involved initially, one of his players, Bill Berg, was a victim of a slewfoot in the playoffs. So he wanted to crack down on slewfooting. That's when he actually took over as the czar of discipline. I am not only going to buy everybody around, because as you're saying, and I'll go back to what you're saying right here, Anthony, it's proof that the NHL isn't hard enough. They fucking rewarded him with a Norris trophy. Are you kidding me? There's only 3 things that are certain in life: death, taxes, PK Subban, Slewfoots. Do I want this guy on my team? Yeah, for 2 reasons. 1, big shot, and I know he can't slewfoot me. I mean, I can't wait till he eventually retires and goes on and becomes a great personality for the NHL. But it's sort of like that thing. There's like a saying from bartenders where it's, he's a great guy. Just when he gets drunk, he's a little bit uncontrollable. Well, it's like, I'm a bartender, right? So in other words, my chances of being slew-footed go up. It's like great. PK Subban is great. I would take him to be the head of my organization in the heartbeat. I wouldn't want him on the ice because eventually he's going to get suspended or fined and slew-foot people. Yeah. Okay. So what do you guys think? PK Subban, slew-footing? Is that all? Are we being too tough on him? I don't know. Are we? I don't know. Seth Jones, one of the worst contracts in the league. Artemi Panarin, are you worried about him if he's the New York Rangers? Are you worried about I almost said JP Parise, Zach Parise if you're the New York Islanders? Obviously not. Yes, may rest in peace. JP Parise, who scored the first series clinching goal between the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. So, yep. So, guys, put it all down in the comments below.
Ooh.
Sorry. What were you about to say?
Yeah, TSN just confirmed that John Doe is, in fact, Kyle Beach, something that Steven and a few others and I were talking about in a group chat. Yeah.
The Kyle Beach?
That was a prospect of the Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah. Yes, first-round draft pick.
Never panned out.
His disappearance was sudden, too, which didn't make sense. And, yeah. Oh, no. Wow.
What do we? I think what Marc was about to move on to was the Halloween costumes, weren't you?
Yeah. So we're gonna take a breath. We're gonna take a breath and get onto that because. Okay. So with Halloween coming next week, we had a bit of a lot more fun sketch than that news that we just got, and So anyway, we want to ask ourselves, what would NHL players be dressed up as for Halloween? And we got some costume ideas for all of them. And Filk is going to start with his 3, and I'm just going to put it on the board as he says it.
So the first one I had was Chris Kreider as Casper the Friendly Ghost, because Chris Kreider, when he doesn't show up, he's really just a ghost. If he doesn't score, he's a ghost. He's really not there if he doesn't score or deflect pucks in this case, because he hasn't scored on a shot this season. So, yeah, Chris Kreider is Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Which hurts the president of the Chris Kreider fan club.
Yeah, deal with it. All right, the next one I wanted to do was Nikita Kucherov as Humpty Dumpty. Yeah, because it seems like every time he's out there now these days, he's got an injury that puts him on LTIR. So, yeah, it looks like he's fallen apart, and you wonder if they can put him back together in time for the playoffs.
Well, always do, and his number doesn't go on the cap.
No. Cap circumvention. It's great. And then my last one, I just put Connor McDavid as Jesus, because I call him McJesus for a reason. And yeah, he's just, if Wayne Gretzky is God, which he is in hockey, Connor McDavid is absolutely Jesus. So I don't think I have to say anything more there.
I think I would have gone with Mario ahead of that, but okay, that's fine right now. All right, so those are Filk's costumes. We are now going to go to our Mr. Anthony Larocco and what he picked.
So I started with my boy Ilya Sorokin, and I put him as Mr. Fantastic because, as you know, Mr. Fantastic can stretch and conform to his body, arms, legs, to do pretty much anything. And Ilya Sorokin is one of the most athletic goalies I've seen. We were watching the game against Vegas the other night, and even my wife noticed. She's like, "Oh wow, that guy's never gonna have kids." When Sorokin just totally stretched out and did the splits, so it's incredible what he does there. I thought that fit like a glove. My second one, being it's an Olympic year, Austin Matthews as Captain America. He might very well be captain of this Olympic team. I think he's the best goal scorer that they're going to have, and being that. He didn't get to see in Toronto. I think he's going to get to see for the U.S. Olympic team. Arizona boy. Thought that was pretty fitting. And then lastly, one of my favorite players of all time, Alex Ovechkin as Benjamin Button. Because, well, guys, he's 36 years old. He's got 7 goals. This guy's playing at a pace where you could see him score 50 goals this year, which at 36 years old to do that would be incredible. And I think another 50 goal season from Ovi pretty much all but not guarantees, but makes his chase to Gretzky that much more feasible.
He is certainly playing like he is much younger. Yeah.
I think he would be the oldest player to score 50 goals in a season if he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think there's anyone that's older that's done it.
Yeah, it's because, again, you need to have longevity. You need to be able to still feel good and, get it. It's hard to get through an NHL season. Remember the year Verbeek and Messier were knocking on the door of 50, and then Verbeek separated his shoulder, and Messier had back spasms. So you never know. It could just happen like that. All right, we're going to go to my costumes. And my first one was Igor Shesterkin as Atlas, not the maps, the Greek god that had to hold everything together and hold the world up. Because after all, that's what Igor Shesterkin is currently doing for the New York Rangers. Where would they be without Igor Shesterkin right now?
Hell.
That's just one I can't help but ask. And I think Anthony saw where my next one's going. As the Las Vegas Golden Knights, I'm going to dress them up as a power play goal. I was confused what to do for the Las Vegas Golden Knights for a power play goal, but they still don't have a power play goal. Do you guys know what a power play goal is like? Do you know you're supposed to be Stanley Cup contenders?
I think when they score a power play goal, somebody should just plug Sam Rosen saying it in their stadium on their PA system so that this way you can hear that, because that would be hilarious.
Well, going into last night, there were two teams that didn't have a power play goal in the season. One of them was Vegas. The other one was Colorado. And then Colorado got a power play goal.
From Cal McCarr, yeah.
And guys, we are 2 hours and 3 minutes into this show today, unless you're watching this on the short segment, then you don't have to worry about it. But it wouldn't be a Big Apple Hockey show unless we mention this name. And by the way, it's Jack Eichel as the prisoner from Iron Maiden. I mean, it's just where, and I was listening to that before. I'm not a prisoner. We're not going to sing. Don't worry about that. But great song. You should listen to that. And poor Jack Eichel now. And he's actually got me feeling sorry for him. Just tell him which surgery to have. I mean, get this guy back in there.
The Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers power play
should.
Has been just as bad. But you know what, Baba, Mr. Ganush, I got to say, that's one of the questions we have. We want to know what some of your costumes that you guys might have in mind right now. Throw them in the comments. We're going to spend about
Jordan
2 minutes on these
Bunyan.
discussing these. Jordan Stahl is Paul Bunyan.
He looks like he could be Paul Bunyan.
He probably could be. He's one big boy. Johnny,
this is a good one from Brody. They need to dress as a hockey skate because they forgot how to cycle the puck on the power play. That's a good one.
And there's a lot of those. Johnny Busick, by the way, oldest player to score 50 goals.
Wow.
Yep. Age of 35.
That's
all
crazy.
Right. I actually have an editorial today too. That's what's even funnier about that before we could get to Q&A. So I'll go really quick. But
I have about like 10 minutes left or so before I got to go get dinner going for my little one.
I have a hockey game at 8, so I'm going to have to start.
My hockey game is at 9:50 in Dix Hills, so I gotta get a little bit of nappy time in there too.
Yeah.
Greg McKegg is Brett Howden.
So if you just want to do
we'll do the Q&A now, and when it's just me and Phil, I'll do the because my topic today is the resurrection or a resurrection needed by a video game franchise. Give you a hint, it's NHL. So,
I guess we could start with the Jack Eichel to Vegas rumors. Yeah. I know Frank Siravelli.
Paul Heyman. Jalen, I love you for that one. That's great.
Frank Siravelli was the one that was reporting that Vegas and the Sabres are kind of in some serious talks here for Eichel. I think it fits. I think it fits like a glove, personally, because they don't. They need another center. But my thing is with Pacioretty's out, Stone is out. When they trade for Eichel, he's not going to play for the first bit there. So they're gonna give up assets to get Eichel. And they'll be weaker in the meantime. But I think ownership really, really wants them to take the next step, and I think they feel having a guy like Jack Eichel at center will help them do that. And I just wonder if they could get him without giving up Peyton Krebs, because I don't see any reason why they should include Krebs in a deal for Eichel. I think he's been too good for them. But it'll be interesting to see if this actually gets over the goal line here. But I'm sure Eichel would jump at the chance to join Vegas. I mean, who wouldn't want to play in Las Vegas?
I gotta say this. Vegas might be the one team that's a contender that can afford to trade for Jack Eichel and wait. Because the rest of them, if the Rangers did it, they're not making the playoffs. You're not going to be able to trade assets on the roster. But that division is pretty weak. And
God, that's great too. Bambi, tripping over a wire.
But that division's pretty weak, and I think Vegas could actually give up a couple of NHL assets and still make the playoffs, and then make a run with Jack Eichel. Which, by the way, Jack Eichel is still waiting to play his first playoff game.
I really do think there would have to be a third team, and I have a feeling that maybe it could be the Rangers because they would want to move salary. The Rangers have room and they need depth on the right wing. And Riley Smith obviously is a favorite of Gerard Gallant. So I wonder if the Rangers would get involved to be a third team there to get, because I don't know if they're going to go after Eichel anymore. I really don't. I think that after that Mika extension.
Hold on 1 sec, guys. I got to stop. Hold on. Go ahead.
Yeah, and PK Subban as an NFL kicker. You get a little Scott Norwood reference. Wide right. PK going wide right, taking out Ryan Reeves' right leg. But yeah,
I think Vegas might also have to give up Nicholas Hague in the deal too if they're going to get. I heard he's another name.
Yeah, but they've got to give up. They've got to move more cap. I mean, they can't really take in Eichel because they went out and they re-signed Martinez. They signed Brossoit. They signed Dadonov. They've got to move probably about at least $9 million in cap to make the cap work. Because there's
I mean it's either that or Buffalo retains. If I had to take a guess, I would say Alex Tuck would probably be involved just because he makes $4 or $5 million, so that would help. But then you need another. If there's no retention, you need another player too that makes a sizable amount. So Tuck and Riley Smith, maybe
they need about 9, I would say, together.
Yeah,
It's again, they gotta figure out what assets that they got, and you think Buffalo's asking for a king ransom? You think Vegas has got that? They've dealt away most of their stuff over the last 3 years. I
would wonder if someone like Pavel Dorofeyev would end up being available in that trade because they're not going to give up Peyton Krebs, but Pavel Dorofeyev, and they shouldn't do it. You're right. I mean, Vegas, because of LTIR, they have just under $6 million in LTIR being used right now between Mark Stone and Zach Whitecloud. But how long is Mark Stone going to be out for? Because that's $9.5 million that comes back when he comes back, depending on when it is. I know it's prorated at that point.
Maybe they can keep him out till the playoffs, like Nikita Kucherov.
Well, I don't know how serious that injury is. So, I mean,
yeah.
I think it really would suit Vegas to do it though. In the long, I mean, you get Jack Eichel as your number one center.
Yeah.
Stevenson goes down, plays down on the lineup, which where he should be.
Carlson.
Yeah. So William Carlson as a 2 wouldn't be bad.
Chandler Stevenson going back down to a number 3 center role would really help them big time.
Yeah,
but there's actually a package that Vegas could offer. They could offer a former first-round draft pick and another first-rounder, and Buffalo would be stupid to say no, and that would be Brett Howden for Jack Eichel. Which, by the way, just to say something, with his neck surgery, that's the package you deserve right now.
David Quinn takes that package and runs if he's a general manager. Let me get Brett Howden.
He's got good intentions.
Intentions per 60.
What do you? Another thing I had included in my bar talk that no one saw, but I said the most surprised team is it San Jose? Is it Buffalo?
Buffalo hands down is the biggest surprise.
Tampa in a negative way. I mean,
but Buffalo's going to come back down to earth like really, really soon. San Jose could actually maybe sustain their play for a little bit with some of the guys they have. Buffalo, there's a mirage.
Yeah, I think San Jose is the one that surprised me. I mean, I thought Carlson was done. I mean, he looks a lot better so far this season.
Yeah.
And then William Eklund, Weatherby.
Jonathan Dahlin.
Yeah, they're Timo Myers. They're playing well right now, and which is surprised because
Steven says Jonathan Dahlin right after I mention his name. That's great.
Because I thought Aiden Hill and James Reimer was a pretty bad tandem. I had ranked that tandem as actually like the third or fourth worst in the league, and I mean right now their record shows that I'm wrong, but we'll see if they show their true colors. But
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they'll compete into the later part of the season. And
Yeah.
you know, they like, to me, they're the surprise, because I thought they were going to be a cellar dweller for most of the year. I didn't think Carlson would find the fountain of youth again and start playing more like he did 3-4 years ago. But I mean, they look all right now. Let's see if that translates. And
now, what are your thoughts on the Rangers? Maybe
have a good night, Bobby.
Maybe the Rangers sending Niels Lundqvist down to Hartford and calling up another defenseman. Just curiosity, because he's played 6 games. He hasn't registered a point yet. Sometimes you want to make sure you want to get the guy to gain confidence.
Yeah,
if he were to go to Hartford, he'd rack up points, and I think his confidence will lift.
But he's not the first guy I'd send down. I'd send down Keandre Miller before I even touch Niels Lundqvist. Keandre Miller has been awful since the first half of last season ended, and even before the Jacob Trouba injury last season, he hit a rookie.
Oh, he has,
and
he definitely has.
And it's not just because he's not putting up points or anything like that, and he's just not playing lockdown. His decision making is questionable with and without the puck at times. He continues to let forwards get behind him, which was the biggest thing that I harped on last season, and I've been harping on it in my good, bad, and uglies this season as well, is you can't continue to let defenders get behind you and get home run passes. That's probably the worst thing you can do as a defenseman, aside from just flat out blowing your assignments. So I would call up Zach Jones and replace Keandre Miller, because I honestly, I'm going to be flat out honest with you. I'd trade Keandre Miller right now. If Buffalo and the Rangers if Drury started talking to Adams again, and Adams said, you give me Keandre Miller, Ryan Strome, a first-round pick, and Vitaly Kravtsov, and you can get Jack Eichel, I'd do it. I would do it. And I would sell high on Keandre Miller before teams figure out that he has a problem. And you know what? If he turns out and corrects it and ends up becoming a good defenseman, then you could just chalk it up to saying, hey, we had other defensemen in our organization that we thought were going to be better. And those defenders can probably help you out anyway. Zach Jones looks like he can run a power play. Zach Jones looks like Adam Fox light. And you know what? It's funny. His coach at UMass said that, and a lot of people were like, whoa, slow down, including myself. I'll admit that. I even said to slow down when I heard that comparison. But Zach Jones really plays smart hockey. And sure, he's undersized, but he skates well, he moves the puck well, and he's got great decision making and smarts. So give him a shot.
I'm in agreement with you about all that. My thing going back to Lundqvist is I'm a big proponent in bringing young defensemen along with kind of kid gloves, because I think a defenseman who's used to, scoring points, I think at a young age when you play in the NHL and you're not producing, I think every day eventually you start to maybe lose some confidence. So I'm just saying, at what point would you at least consider sending Niels down to gain a little more seasoning? This way he gains that confidence back, and then when he comes back up, he could flourish. Because, I mean, let's face it, aside from the 0 point, he obviously hasn't set the world on fire. So basically, what's better, him staying here and status quo, or going to Hartford and playing more minutes, a bigger role, and producing, and he comes up a more confident player? So at what point would you think that you consider doing that?
Okay, what's the alternative? The alternative is that if you do that, you have to bring up one of either Jared Tenorti or Libor Hayek, and they're both trash. They are both absolute garbage. So I don't know if that necessarily helps. I get it, and I agree with you to a point, but Mark, please.
Yeah, what do you? I mean,
I'm actually one of the people that would say I tend to throw the kids into the fire as long as they can mentally handle it, and as long as it doesn't crush their confidence. And if you're checking in with them several different times, you check in with the kids frequently. You adjusting this? Are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. You can also yell at them if you want when you have to, but if they're fine, then let them make mistakes as long as it's not killing their confidence. If it is killing their confidence, drop them down a level. It's the same way that we'll drop down a difficulty on a video game because it's too hard, and then ratchet it back up again when we're ready for it. It's because it's sort of like an NFL thing to do, just throw them out there. I understand what you're saying though, Anthony. If you need to send them down for seasoning, you let them get some seasoning, because plenty of guys on this roster all played in the minors before they got up, and it's a privilege to play with the big club. It is not a right, Vitaly Kravtsov, and maybe you could have just gone down for a little bit and then been right back up. Because the one thing I didn't get a chance to say last week, if there was any time Vitaly Kravtsov should have went to Hartford, it was this year. You would have been the first call-up.
Yeah.
You would have been the first or second call-up. Instead, you whined, you went back to Russia.
Okay, here's the only thing I'll say in regard to that. They did the same thing 2 years ago, and he went down there. There was a problem down there. It was obviously a problem. He came out and said that he would play for any other team in the AHL but the Rangers. That tells you that something is going on in Hartford with him. Something's not right, whether it's between him and Knobloch, him and other players on the team. I don't know what the issue was, but that Arthur Staple article, which was amazing, by the way, if anybody hasn't read Arthur Staple's first article as writer for The Athletic, because I say that in quotation.
Well, for the Rangers.
He's covered the Rangers before for Newsday. So Arthur Staple's no stranger to New York hockey, especially the Rangers. But that article did not paint Chris Drury. And I saw that before.
I'm not quite sure what that means.
It's a joke. That's
Rick is busting your chops, Anthony.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody says you're the coolest Islander fan that they know.
Yeah. Well,
I guess maybe it's just because, I'm an Islander fan, so I see how Lou does.
I was just that
he brought Noah Dobson along very slowly, and I thought Dobson, made big strides last year, and this year, no issues. I think he's been good, and another guy, Oliver Wahlstrom, they brought him along slowly, and nothing but good things with him. And I think there's a case to be. I get some teams have no problem thrusting their young guys right into the lineup, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think there's something to be said for bringing, obviously, unless you're a Crosby, you go in and play right away. But other prospects, I think it's beneficial for them to, grind their teeth and really learn the game.
Every player is different.
All right. And every player is different. And the player can change their development very easily and very quickly. One of the guys that I'm thinking about with this is Kaapo. The Rangers did try to kind of force him in a little bit early. Then David Quinn, holy crap, pulled the rug right under him. He went from being on the top power play unit in his first year. I think he had 4 goals in his first 5 weeks. And then he didn't even see power play 2 last year. If you mean to tell me that this kid is supposed to be a future 40-goal scorer, future pillar of your team, something to build on, you're not going to play him on power play 2?
Here's the problem.
Blackwell?
And what I was saying before with the Kravtsov before I got off the tracks there was the fact that they did this 2 years ago. There was a problem obviously with him in Hartford, but instead of having Vitaly Kravtsov, who actually played well in the 1920 preseason, they had Michael Haley, who is an ECHL caliber player, Brendan Smith at forward, and they had Brett Howden in there. So do we really think that Vitaly Kravtsov would have been the first call-up? They're playing Dryden Hunt on the power play. That tells you all you need to know about the status of this organization in terms of handling their players and their forward right. It's not good.
No, it's not. And I can tell you this, and different players, so it's not, it's not apples to apples, but just as you can see where I'm coming from the example. The Islanders drafted Josh Bailey, and he was relatively well-touted player, and they were bad at that.
No, they traded up to get him, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. No, they traded down. They traded down twice, and they took Bailey. But he was coming off a 96-point season, and I think the bar for him was set a little higher than it ended up being, and I think a lot of that is because the Islanders brought him up as an 18-year-old at a time where they were bad. They were bad. They were lean, the very lean years. he had no business playing in the NHL those first 2 years, and he struggled, so it took him a while to become, a formidable player, and because of that, over the years he became a whipping boy. But when you look at it realistically, he's developed into a good look at. He's going to hit 1,000 games. He's like in the top 10 in Islander points, and he's a reliable 40 to maybe a 50-point player if he's playing with the right players. But I think those early years hurt his development. He should have been playing in junior. And
I don't know if I ever saw him being that great of a player. I remember when I talked to you when they drafted him. The comparison that I gave you is I thought he would be a Chris Drury type player. He would be a guy that would score maybe 20, 25 goals, and he would be anywhere from 50, maybe a 60-point player at his very best. He'd be a guy that could play hard and give you decent two-way play, and which is what pretty much what he became with kind of a lesser points and lesser goals. But I really, what kills me is, you're right, the player development, and that's the problem that I'm alluding to with the Rangers. Something isn't right with the player development. You want to talk about the scouting all you want and the talent evaluation, but the player development, something's not right. And the player development wasn't right for him either. But the draft position really killed him, because there were a lot of expectations for him during a time in which they were going through a rebuild, and he was supposed to be one of those core pieces, and he just never got to that level. I think he was probably a little bit of a reach at that pick in 2008, and it's not a knock at him. It's just that there were other guys that went after him that ended up being much better players, and the Islanders probably didn't have the greatest talent evaluators at that point in time either.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it's a combination of things, but you're right. His development was definitely stunted to a point.
And that's why you do have to be careful with young players. And like I don't think that's happening with Kakko. He's a much more skilled player. But
you could see the skill.
Yeah, you could absolutely see the skill. And I think, and we've said it. We said it, months ago, last season, that this is Kakko's year to really start putting up offensive numbers, because if he doesn't put up offensive numbers, then I think more doubt's gonna enter his mind into what kind of player can I really be. And I think for the Rangers, you need to hit on that pick. They need him to break out and become that impact player. So,
and also sometimes you just need to have patience and just let him become the player.
That's the thing. Look at Mikko Rantanen. Mikko Rantanen went and he really worked on his speed and his strength, and he became an absolute beast of a human being, and he's gotten great. I know that playing with Nathan MacKinnon has helped, but if you look at it,
he's a hell of a player. He doesn't need McKinnon.
Yeah, but what I was about to say is that when Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen got put together in 2017, 2018, both of them took off at that time. And there's no coincidence that the both of them have been better with each other's help. Like that's not a Gretzky, did this for this guy and this guy was nothing without Gretzky. That's the two of them helping each other out, whether you want to say it or not. I think Mikko Rantanen would be a guy that would score at least 30 goals and at least 70 to 80 points somewhere else without Nathan MacKinnon, if you have him with a decent center. So, but yeah, it's the player development is definitely off with the Rangers, and Kakko needs time. Just give him a little time. You could see the flashes, the skill, the skating's improved, his strength along the boards. He wins board battles. He's a beast along the boards. I want to see what Kakko can do. The thing that he needs to work on the most is his shot. He needs to get that shot better. And I think if that shot improves, I think the pucks are going to start hitting the back of the net with a lot of frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would love to see Adam Fox improve his speed a little bit too, but he's definitely no slouch in that department.
I'm gonna jump off. Before I do, Dave Pagnotta tweeted some 8 minutes ago regarding some of Kyle Beach's comments, and I think this is damning towards Quenneville. And again, I don't know how he's behind the bench tonight, but Kyle Beach says, "I've witnessed meetings right after I reported it to James Gary. They were held in Joel Quenneville's office. There's absolutely no way that he could deny knowing it."
Yeah, he can't be on this bench tonight.
So
he has to. But yeah, I'm out too on that note because I got to start getting ready to go for my game. But this is bad, and I have a feeling that it's going to get worse. I really don't want.
Right, gentlemen.
I'm gonna just record the editorial a different time because I can't go back to the editorial after this news. So
yeah,
it's hard enough to keep going by. By the way, D, keep on fighting the good fight out there and keep on catching all the bad guys that you can.
Yeah, definitely.
By
the way, D, where are you in North Carolina? I got family in Hampstead right now. They're moving to Wilmington, so I figured I would just ask. But speaking of Quenneville, how does Florida handle him going forward? I think he's got to be let go. I don't care if he's your coach. I don't care if he's a Hall of Fame caliber coach. He's got to be let go after all this, especially with Kyle. And what does Kyle Beach have to? There's no axe to grind there. Not that I get it. He was.
He didn't wait. He didn't wait 10 years. And by the way, he didn't wait 10 years. He came forward about it in
2011. Yeah, he said something about it back then. So this was swept under the rug, and he said something about it. And you know what? I also heard that there was. I'm guessing that the player is him. That the homophobic slur was said towards, and he was chased around the ice. So I'm guessing that's him, which is just appalling and disgusting, and just I really you know what, I would hate to end a broadcast like this, especially after but it's terrible. Do better, Chicago. Do better. And do better, NHL, and do better, and actually lay the hammer down on these guys.
Johnston County. Okay, Johnston County is where he's from.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, our boys in blue are always. My brother's highway patrol in Arizona, so
I got tons of friends in NYPD. So
yeah, and as do I, and all the other guys. Maybe these guys could have gotten
that.
It's disgusting to say because, again, I was a guy that had so much respect for Quenneville.
So did I.
And I was ready to give him the benefit of doubts on this. But, again, I'll go back to what I said in the other thing. It's not in your pay grade. You're supposed to coach people. Somebody tells you that, you call the cops.
Yeah, and exactly. Is it just me, or does this feel like the whole Jesus Christ, Sean. I shouldn't be laughing at that, but I know Sean's not trying to make light of it. He's just.
Yes. Yes, it was timing. It was timing. MTA cops. Oh, another branch that's always.
Yeah. Oh, you're a bus driver. Stop, Dave. I'm talking NYPD. I'm talking cops.
I do know plenty of I'm a bartender in Wantagh. I know every cop.
What I was gonna say was, doesn't this feel like a don't meet your heroes type situation? So
kind of. I gotta say that it's difficult to stomach because, again, this isn't like a disconnect of generations saying we don't talk about this, we're not going to address this. This happened now. Happened with Stan Bowman, son of Scotty Bowman. who was also, by the way, a consultant at the time with the Blackhawks too.
Yeah, I don't know how much involvement he would have had.
I'm not going there at all. I'm just saying.
No,
it's
I
another
know.
voice that could have been in the room to help things.
Yeah, I don't know. And there's not a lot he could have done either.
And again, I'm not saying that either.
No. I know you're not. I just, it just, you know what? I kind of doubt that maybe he heard about it in passing. I don't know. It's much a process.
This whole thing could have been avoided by doing the right thing from the start.
Yeah, absolutely.
And unfortunately, Sean, you're a welcome voice. It's just, oh man, it's.
Yeah, you did. You arrived at a somber point, but I mean, we addressed this earlier on too, but yeah, I mean, we couldn't avoid talking about it. And it's not politics. It's not like it's somebody just voicing their political opinions and stuff like that. We don't want to get into that type of stuff. That stuff is not us. But this is unavoidable. This is more than hockey, and it had to be addressed.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's
how did you not learn your lesson? How did you not?
How did they not learn from Sandusky?
No, and they didn't.
How do you not learn from that? What?
And I understand that came out. I think it was 2011. So this happened afterwards. But
yeah, I think so.
This is how. And again, this is how Joel Quenneville's going to go out now.
You know what?
You don't have that.
He shouldn't be coaching another game. He shouldn't be able to coach ever again if that's the case. And it sounds like this. I mean, it's pretty much damning because you have all the pieces coming out and saying, David, I won't be. I really don't have an interest in baseball right now, so I'll just answer that. Well,
I did. I watched most of last night's game. That was a bloodbath. But
yeah, and Sean, yeah, you're definitely right. They were wrong in every way. That explained what happened. Well, explain what happened. Quenneville basically helped push this under the rug. That's what happened.
Yeah,
sexually assaulted.
Rich, there's a lot to go over with that, but that's the story of the NHL this week about them covering up a sexual assault in their organization.
Yeah, it just, I mean, I'm not going to go into all the details again because it's just too much to go over once again. Rich, it's all over the place. I'm not trying to blow you off or anything or, be short or snide with you. But
although, by the way, you could comment down below, as I keep saying in there, I want my Filk wrestling channel. Because I know you'll definitely watch.
Yeah, but
this is the sport that I love. This is the league I love. And
this is the sport I love, and it's the league that sucks the most.
I hate that.
I hate that I could say that.
It's Well, again, that at one point, Bettman was trending up again. Things are going fine. And unfortunately, we did an honest press conferences where I was Gary Bettman. And I joked about, can I talk about something else? And I think Filk brought up the Chicago thing. And I was like, oh, all right, can I go back to the other thing I was uncomfortable talking about? It shouldn't have gotten to this. And that's, again, the saying, the cover-up is worse. Cover-up's always a bigger scandal. This kid's life was ruined.
I mean, Kyle Beach, thankfully, has had success post trying to make the NHL. He's playing in Germany. He played in Germany, in Austria. I mean, good for him to be able to have a life post NHL and still do what he loved or what he loves and what he grew up playing. I believe he's playing in a Slovakian league, the last I heard, or the last I saw, I should say. But I mean,
But if his dream was to make the NHL and this just completely destroyed it, or derailed it.
you're right, but I'm just saying it's good that he was able to go on and still play hockey despite everything that happened. And I feel horrible for him, and I feel horrible for the other people who have not been named. Hopefully they get justice, and they get some closure out of this. I know that, and I feel bad saying the word closure because I know that there will never be anything that will change anything that happened to any of the victims. And I'm not saying closure like that, but seeing these people put the justice and knowing that other people won't have to suffer the same fates that they did and deal with the abuse and the trauma, that would help. But that would be a start for the NHL and the Chicago Blackhawks. The NHL, they can't just fine them $3 million and slap on the wrist. You've got to go and you've got to hit these guys hard. You've got to go and got to hit that party. Yeah, I know they're afraid.
And you know what? Maybe it would have stopped them from hurting another kid.
That's what I'm saying.
We just saw what happened with USA Gymnastics.
Yeah, Dave, it was Kyle Beach, who was a former first-round pick of the Blackhawks, who was one of the players. He was the player abused.
Yeah.
The other one, there was a female intern, and then there was another player, and then another member of the organization, and then Aldrich also sexually molested a high school player in Michigan. So, but yeah, I mean, this was definitely not comfortable.
So there were 3 people in this organization, and he still got a letter of commendation.
That's what I said before. I just had no words for that because it's just. How do you explain that? How do you know that?
It's sick to my stomach about this.
How do you know that? How do you know that and recommend him to a team? Like, what's wrong with you? And that's not even the first question to ask. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you for covering this up?
How did he not step up for his player?
That's another thing, and that's actually a really good point. Your player, someone in your organization, is coming to the organization with a problem, and it's one that transcends hockey. Wouldn't you step up? And why didn't the NHLPA step up for Kyle Beach? Like, this is a total failure from top.
You know what? But if first off, the NHLPA is doing a terrible job right now, and it's a guy that has done so much work for players in Major League Baseball, almost too much, to the point of where the players have all the power. And he goes to this. He goes between the Jack Eichel situation, where a decision needs to be made sooner or later on his surgery, and he's got to get surgery. So either have somebody explain it to him. The team is old, but that's one thing. And then this.
That's why I go back to it. Best league, best sport, worst league. Best sport, worst league. Just it's mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling to think that all this could go on. I'm gonna have to get going, guys. I really got to start getting ready and stuff.
And unfortunately, so do I, guys. Sorry that it wasn't exactly the most uplifting show that we've had in a while, but
yeah.
I mean, well, you'll be able to see the Halloween costumes. They're going to be nice and funny. That'll be on Monday or Sunday. Is it? Which holiday? Halloween's Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah. But yeah. So again, in the future, I don't care if it's the New York Rangers that end up being involved in something like this. If it happens, you don't keep it in house. You go and you call the police right away.
We already had the Knicks. We already had the Knicks with that.
Yeah. And yeah, the Kasparaitis interview, that guy was absolutely hilarious. So
yeah.
So there's still a lot of good things that came out of today, a lot of good hockey talk. Unfortunately, the story of the league right now. But we had to delve into this. You even saw the look on my face when we did it as a segment. I mean, I don't even want if I branch it off and do our own video on it. I don't even want likes on it. It's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
It's disgusting what happened. It's disgusting what happened as a response. It's disgusting how this kid was treated.
It's disgusting how all of them were treated. And it's disgusting that it was swept under the rug and they were slapped in the face the way that they were, with their situation being minimized for over a decade.
And again, how many Stanley Cups were needed to get them to investigate this? We don't need this right now. Who fucking cares if you need it right now?
Yeah.
I think all leagues should be proactive in that. Get in front of it while you can.
There's a stigma in hockey. Again, Marc Mathot, you ever come across this? Whatever you said about there not being a stigma in hockey was a load of shit, buddy. The old boys club still exists. It's alive and well, apparently, and it needs to die.
All right, but guys, again, thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to be getting this up on iTunes probably in the next 30 minutes. And just, and by the way, domestic violence.
It's another one.
Needs to be addressed too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I said this before out of frustration out of the players' side. How many great players, actual NHL players, do you look at and go, oh, yeah, he's great, but no, they're all good characters too. So anyway, guys, again, thank you all very much. We're gonna get ready for our hockey games too, and we're gonna have some more fun on another night. Once again, check out Marc in Nashville. Toying with new microphones, so sorry about the audio being a little bit off. But I can't say enough about the city of Nashville. That was fantastic, and the people there were great. And can't wait for the next one to go on the road for. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Ranger game, or an Islander game, but can't wait. There's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Again, thank you very much.
Yeah, and definitely keep out for the my good, bad, and ugly tweets. I'll make sure that they're posted in the Facebook group as well. So be on the lookout for those. Have a good night, everybody.
And there might even be some video segments. I've already made up an intro for John on that one. All right. Again, good night, everybody. Thank you.
Take care.